Channel 4 Sports presents University of Colorado Buffaloes football. Live from Memorial Stadium and Farrell Field in Columbia, Missouri. It's the University of Colorado Buffaloes versus the University of Missouri Tigers. Today's game is brought to you by Samsonite and by Grease Monkey. Both proud companies for Colorado. By U.S. West and by Taco Bell. Now, here are Les Shapiro and Dave Logan.
Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to Columbia, Missouri, Farrell Field on the University of Missouri campus. I'm Les Shapiro along with Dave Logan. And Dave, we already have a change in the CU starting lineup.
Yeah, Darian Hagan is not going to start, and in his place, Charles Johnson will be at the helm. And, of course, you lose a lot when Darian
Does CU do anything different with the junior Charles Johnson at quarterback?
Well, they might be a little more conservative early, but I think Charles Johnson really is a terrific athlete. He's got the ability to run the option, and I wouldn't think you'll lose a lot, at least in a one-game situation with Charles at quarterback.
On defense, the CU Buffs have a pretty tough task ahead of them. They go against a very good passing Missouri team led by Ken Kiefer, the quarterback.
Yeah, they've got an outstanding passing offense. Kiefer has thrown for more than 200 yards in 9 consecutive games. And, of course, if you follow the CU at all this season, you know the Buffaloes have had their problems trying to stop a passing attack. And I know Bill McCartney is worried about that. You've got to get a lot of pressure on Kiefer and try to force them into running the football more than they'd like to.
It's the Big 8 conference opener, and we'll be right back for the kickoff. 2-2, and the Colorado Buffaloes 3-1-1. The Buffs have played that extra game at the beginning of the season. They were invited to the Pigskin Classic, the game they tied with Tennessee. Head coach for the CU Buffaloes, Bill McCartney, in his 9th year as the Buffs head coach, turned 50 years old just a couple months ago. A record of 49, 46, and 2.
And George Hemingway dumped a bucket of ice water on Coach Mack for his 50th birthday. I'm sure he appreciated that.
And on the other sideline, Bob Stull, in his 2nd year with the Missouri Tigers, had a fairly shaky first year here in Columbia, going 2-9, but he seems to have turned things around. They have already matched their victory total of last year in just their 4th game. Bob Stull. CU will receive the opening kickoff. Mark Plunkett will kick it for the Missouri Tigers, and back to receive for the Buffs, 2 fine seniors, number 1 Eric Bieniemy and number 9 Mike Pritchard. Pritchard has averaged 20 yards on his kickoffs this year. The conference opener for both teams. The kick will go to Bieniemy at the 1-yard line, and he is dragged down right around the 5 by number 28 from Missouri, Jermaine Wilkins. So the Buffs will start with the ball at their own 4-yard line, going north to south, and that's not very good news for the Buffs because the wind is blowing from the south at a good 15 to 20 miles an hour. As we told you earlier, Charles Johnson will start the game at quarterback for the Buffs. Darian Hagan is out with a badly sprained shoulder. Charles Johnson, a 5'11", 165-pound junior. Stacked backfield for the Buffs, the wishbone offense. It goes to the first man through, the fullback George Hemingway, and he is stacked up quickly. The backs and the receivers for the Buffs at fullback, Hemingway. The wingback is Michael Simmons. Eric Bieniemy, who needs 129 yards today to become CU's all-time leading rusher. Mike Pritchard and John Bowman at the receiver. The offensive line, Solomon, Garton, the All-American, Lewenberg, Heasley, and Vanderpool. A gain of 1 on that last play. It's 2nd and 9 for the Buffs. 2 running backs. It goes to the second man through. That's Bieniemy, and he brings it across the 10, stacked up at the 12. Gain of about 6. The defensive line for Missouri, you'll see Lyle, Johnson, Hunt, and Harper. At linebacker for the Tigers, Ringenberg, Reiner, and Fletcher. And the defensive backs, Sharon Washington, Harry Colin, Mike Jadlow, and Maurice Benson. 3rd and 3 for the Buffs. Johnson will keep it. Slips and falls. The Buffs are in their first punting situation of the afternoon.
You know, watching both teams in warm-ups, everybody seemed to be having a problem with their footing. I've seen several guys slip down, and Charles Johnson right there had the first down yardage had he been able to stop and plant off that left foot and duck up inside the defensive end.
A bit odd considering we've had gorgeous weather here in Columbia, Missouri the last few days. In fact, it's about 85 degrees right now at game time. Tom Ruin, the All-American punter, back for the Buffs. And number 23, Maurice Benson, will field it at about the 47. But nowhere to go, and he is racked up at the 45-yard line. Missouri starting off with very good field position at the CU 45-yard line. This is a Missouri offense that loves to throw it. Kent Kiefer, in his 4 games this year, in each of those 4 games, has thrown for more than 200 yards. Last week against Arizona State in an upset win for the Tigers, he threw for 279 yards and 2 touchdowns. Kiefer will come out throwing, and he'll come out throwing deep to number 6, Damon Mays. Just broken up by the Buffs defender Greg Thomas. And Dion Figures, both defensive backs in there to break it up.
Well, when you get this kind of field position, you can afford to take chances like this. And Damon Mays, with great speed, the fastest Tiger player, almost gets to the post for a big play.
Dion Figures is the one who got his hand on it. Let's line up Missouri's offense for you. At running back, Michael Jones and Sean Moore, Lindsey Collins and Damon Mays, a couple of good receivers, and Linthicum at tight end. Trumbull, Badowski, Funk, Wright, and McCullough on the offensive line. It's 2nd down and 10 from the 44. Kiefer will throw again, slips, complete on the sideline, down to the 35. The pass complete to Sean Moore, the tailback. He'll be close to a first down there, and it is a first down.
Missouri's got the kind of offense that really likes to spread the football around, and Kiefer's smart enough to stand in the pocket. You see him slip down and just go to the open guy. Moore out in the flat. The ball beats McLuhan there, and Tigers are going to throw the ball somewhere between 40 and 50 times. You can bank on that this afternoon.
They do gain the first down, so it's 1st and 10 from the Buffs 34. Missouri's first running play goes nowhere. That was Sean Moore once again.
The key defensively will be trying to stop Missouri from having much of a running attack at all.
Marcellus Elder is starting for the Buffs in place of Leonard Renfro. At linebacker, the 2 All-Americans anchor that section, Alfred Williams and Kenavis McGee. And in the secondary, a good smart group. McLuhan, James, Thomas, and Figures. James leads that group with 3 interceptions this year. 2nd down and 8 for Missouri from the Buffs 32. Kiefer to throw. The shorty across the middle to Lindsey Collins. He gets it down to the 15-yard line. Figures and Thomas in on the tackle.
We mentioned the Tiger passing attack, and of course they've got excellent speed on the outside. Lindsey Collins is probably the best receiver they have, and Colorado in the 2 deep zone, unless you get contact with that receiver and you just allow him to come off the line of scrimmage and directly enter the secondary on that angle, that's going to be a fairly tough pass to stop.
And entering your picture right there, you saw tight end Tim Bruton, very good tight end for Missouri in the ball game now. 1st and 10 from the CU 15-yard line. Lindsey Collins in motion. Kiefer to throw again. And we have a whistle.
Missouri, I believe, jumped before the ball was actually snapped. Not delay a game. Missouri that time trying to send the man in motion to the wide side. They had 4 receivers, and I think the thing that the Tigers do probably better than anything else is to make sure they get mismatches in the secondary. 4 receivers, and if you don't slide defensively, of course, you're outmanned to the wide side of the field.
Faurot Field in Columbia, Missouri holds about 62,000 people. They're calling this an excellent crowd, about 45,000 here right now. 1st and 15 for the Tigers. from the CU 20-yard line. Kiefer will throw. Into the end zone corner. Oh, a beautiful pass and catch. Number 2, Victor Bailey, a sophomore from Missouri. He just blew right by his defender. Deon Figures for the first score of the afternoon.
We talked about the speed the Tigers have on offense, and number 2 runs by number 2. You see Deon Figures kind of set down, squatted, and waited for the outcut. And Bailey, with terrific speed up the sideline, just ran by him. Quite a throw by Kiefer. So he let that ball go before Bailey had actually passed Figures, right on the money. And as in every game so far this year, Colorado finds themselves trailing early.
The extra point attempt by Jeff Jackie. And it's perfect. The Missouri Tigers shoot out to a 7-0 lead. We have 11 minutes, 10 seconds left in this first quarter in Columbia, Missouri.
Most of your time.
The Missouri kickoff is taken by Eric Bieniemy, and the Buff runs it up to the 30-yard line. Let's take another look at that touchdown, Dave, by Missouri.
Well, Colorado pretty much is a 2-deep zone kind of cover team, and they catch the Buffs in that zone. The cornerback, Deon Figures, squats for a second and waits for the outcut, and when he does that, it enables Bailey to run right by him on the outside. An excellent throw, and Bailey in for the initial score of the game.
We're actually not surprised at all by the early events. Missouri tends to score early. CU tends to give up points early and fall behind. 1st and 10 from the 30-yard line. The pitch to Bieniemy. He's got a seam and slips and falls at the 34. Mike Ringenberg on the tackle.
And again, I go back. You look at how many guys early in this game, we played it a little over 3 minutes, are falling down. Eric Bieniemy has slipped a couple of times. Charles Johnson has slipped. Ken Kiefer slipped when he went back, and I'm not sure if it's the surface, which is a tartan surface, or if it's just maybe a change of shoes might be necessary.
A gain of 5 for Bieniemy on that last play. 10:30 to go in the first quarter. Stacked backfield once again for the Buffs. Charles Johnson at quarterback, pitches to Bieniemy. He's got the sideline. Bieniemy ought to be able to gain some big stuff on this one, possibly all the way. No. And he fumbles at the 15. Is it recovered by Missouri, or are they calling it out of bounds? They're calling it a Missouri recovery and a touchback. So the Tigers will get the ball at their own 20-yard line after the long Bieniemy gain. Sharon Washington falls on the ball.
Well, Bieniemy has excellent blocking in front as Hemingway and Pritchard both get knockdowns. Actually, Michael Simmons. And it looked like the ground caused the fumble, at least initially from here. Maurice Benson saves the touchdown. Bieniemy lassoed there. Tough to see. But nevertheless, the ball is ruled a fumble, and Missouri takes over. Colorado has had all sorts of problems on turnovers this year. Bieniemy right there needs one block, but really outruns the only guy that can help him in Mark Vanderpool. Benson, the initial tackler, and there you see the football come loose.
Looked like Sharon Washington knocked it loose while Bieniemy was still in the air. Kiefer to pass, incomplete.
Good job by Dave McLuhan there as he rides the receiver all the way down inside and makes it tough to catch that slant pattern. We mentioned the Colorado turnover. They've had all sorts of problems this year. That's the 16th turnover of the year in game number 6. Last year, they had 14 the entire season. So it goes to show you they've had their fair share of problems hanging on to the football this year.
And any coach will tell you the one thing that causes them to lose sleep more than any other is turnovers. 2nd and 10 for Missouri. We have a whistle. There is a yellow penalty flag on the field. And the call is against Missouri. So we'll rerun that play. It'll be 2nd and 15 for the Tigers. Good look at Coach McCartney on the sideline.
Not feeling at his best. He's had a case of the stomach flu the last couple of days and was under the weather last night. Really was concerned about this football game. Thought they could run the ball in Missouri, but was worried that Missouri's offense would present many of the same problems that their opponents in the first 5 games had.
2nd down and 15. 10:06 to go in the first quarter. Kiefer to throw. Has a man open on the sideline. That's number 4, Lindsey Collins. Complete up past the 30. And there's another penalty flag on the field. Canavis McGee made the push out of bounds.
Maybe holding. It is going to be holding, and I think it's on Gary Howe, as Howe is just jerked to the ground. I think Rick Trumbull, the left tackle, may have been called for that. But you see what the Missouri offense can do by passing the football if Kiefer has a lot of time.
And a couple of good receivers, Lindsey Collins and Damon Mays, to throw to. So the ball will come way back to the Missouri 8-yard line, and it will be 2nd down and 22 to go for the Tigers. So far, 3 penalties on the Tigers for a total of 17 yards. And we have only played 5 minutes in this ball game. Kiefer gives it to Sean Moore. Excuse me, Ronell Cahill. He goes nowhere. Ronell Cahill, the leading ground gainer for the Tigers so far, averages 5 yards a carry. He has 170 yards on the year. Chad Brown made that tackle for the Buffs.
Bob Stahl took over this program a couple of years ago. And actually, although the record would not show this, did a pretty good job last year. Brought the passing game. They like to spread out the defense and throw the ball. Bill McCartney, of course, an excellent job in his stay in Boulder.
And himself a former Missouri grad, 1962. Mac played some ball here. 3rd and 25. Again, they run it up the middle and go nowhere. All of a sudden, Missouri getting conservative. And they'll come onto the field with their punting unit.
Shades of Bruce Coslett Monday night as the Jets and the Bills, 3rd and 20, tried to hit a quick trap. That play sometimes will be successful because more times than not the defense in a man-to-man situation, everybody running down the field with their backs turned, and if you can pop that initial line of scrimmage, you can pick up some pretty good yardage.
Mark Plunkett to punt for the Tigers. And back to receive for the Buffs. It's Dave McCluen.
Ooh.
Very nice punt. Back at the 40, another slip. McCluen is racked up quickly. You know, Dave, maybe it wasn't such a bad idea for Missouri to punt from there considering the slippage. 7-0, Missouri. 1st and 10 for CU. Bieniemy the run. Has room outside again across the 50. Fumbles again. But he's being called down. The Buffs will retain the ball. Brought down by Sharon Washington. Let's go down to the field. Mark McIntosh. Find out why it's so slippery down there, Mark.
Yeah, thank you, Les. This turf was installed 6 years ago here at Missouri. As you can see right here, the fibers are wore down to a frazzle. There's hardly nothing left here, and I think that's the big reason you're seeing everybody slipping out there. There's just no traction. Back upstairs.
Thanks, Mark. Well, evidently they mowed the grass too low, Dave.
Well, I'll tell you, might want to play barefoot, huh?
They might have better luck.
It's like an ice rink out there.
Gain of 9 yards for Bieniemy. It's 2nd and 1. The Buffs in Missouri territory for the first time today, and Johnson will throw. A lot of time. Goes deep. Underthrown. And almost intercepted. We have a flag on the field.
It's going to be a flag on Mike Pritchard, though, I'm afraid. I think Mike reached in and tried to keep the Missouri quarterback from coming back in time for the interception.
Might have been a smart play also because 2 Missouri defenders had a chance to intercept that ball. If Pritchard didn't drag one of them down, Missouri might have the ball right now. And that indeed is the call. You're right again, Mr. Logan.
But play action pass, in this case, Charles Johnson with excellent protection, but nobody comes open. Pritchard down the sideline. They tried to get the tight end up the seam, and Charles might have been better served just to throw this ball away or try to run it. You can see there are 3 Tigers around. And really an excellent job by Pritchard as he thought he was saving an interception. You saw him just grab the hand of Jermaine Wilkins, the cornerback on the left side, and now the Buffs will have 3rd down and long.
Maybe the result of Charles Johnson's inexperience. He has played in every game this year, but he hasn't played much. 3rd and 14 for the Buffs from their own 37. The pitch to Bieniemy, and he slips and falls.
But Missouri had 12 guys on the field, and I can promise you the 12th did not get off in time. Now,
there is a flag. In fact, there are a couple of flags on the field.
I was going to say whether or not they saw that or not, I'm not sure, but number 12 was hustling to get off, and he was about halfway between the hash marks and the numbers.
Let's hear what the call is.
Yep.
Too many men on the field for Missouri. So the Zebras will march off some yardage against the Tigers. And the Buffs will have a 3rd and 10. We have 7:39 left in this first quarter.
Bob Stoll's got to be unhappy with that, as he had CU in a 3rd and long situation, but got caught up in all the change in the defense. Of course, which a lot of teams do, the substitution policies. You can have 5, 6, 7 guys come in at one time, and they just had too many and didn't get off in time.
Right before the snap, it looked like a fire drill out on the field. 4 or 5 Missouri Tigers running on, the same number running off. 3rd and 10 for the Buffs from their own 42. Johnson will throw and slips. Never gets the throw off. Back at the 32-yard line. The first man to him is Mario Johnson.
I tell you, excellent penetration initially by Johnson as he comes from the left side. Colorado slide blocks, but by the time Charles Johnson sets up, you can see what he's looking at, as he clearly had someone in his face and again slips down. Gonna have to do something with the footing factor, change shoes or something, because you got too many guys falling down.
Dave, does a college team bring a change of shoes with it on the road?
Sure.
That's Ruin, and he shanks the punt to the right. Pressure from Skip Leach. And Missouri once again begins with good field position.
I think it might have been blocked, Les. Talk about penetration. Missouri again right on top of Tom Ruin. The snap was low, and Ruin did an excellent job fielding the snap, but I think partially the ball was blocked, a 14-yard punt. And again, first halves have just not been kind to Colorado this year. They just dig themselves a hole, and they've been good enough to get out of it in most situations.
Let's go down to the field and Mark McIntosh.
Thank you, Les. You know, the Buffs offense continues to struggle, but don't expect Darian Hagan to come in as a savior. Dave Burton, the trainer for CU, said the only way Hagan's going to play is if the Buffs are real far behind. Back upstairs.
Kiefer going deep. Talk about upstairs, but he overthrows his man, Lindsey Collins. Collins had his defender beat, but the throw is long.
Missouri, game plan wise, thought they could get the ball deep on Colorado by the post and also the streak pattern. And again, they've got excellent speed on the outside. Collins running past Dave McClellan, who has great speed in his own right. And although that was an incompletion, it also stretches the defense and enables you to work underneath much more easily. You can see Kiefer much better this year, 64% passer. He's already over 1,000 yards. He's 3 of 6 so far for 49 yards this afternoon and 1 touchdown.
2nd and 10 for Missouri. 6.5 minutes to go in this first quarter. The Tigers on the Buffs' 46-yard line. Kiefer again. The screen pass, but he is nailed. Brought down by Gary Howe, who was right on top of the play, saw it coming.
And Alfred Williams almost had Kiefer that time, but he slipped down as well with the initial surge. Gary Howe's a guy that is really underrated. You look at him, you figure, well, with all these great players they have on defense, this kid really can't be that good, and he surprises you. He hustles, he's got very good strength, and he never stops. Competitive kid as you take a look at Darian Hagan.
Darian Hagan earlier in the week when he wasn't practicing said there's no way I will miss this game, but a second-degree separation is holding him down on the sidelines. 3rd and 12 for Missouri. Good pass rush and a sack by Alfred Williams, the All-American outside linebacker for the Buffs. Missouri will have to punt.
And you talk about beating somebody around the corner. Rick Trumbull, the left tackle, actually never gets set. Watch the left tackle, number 78, as he tries to take Williams initially, and Alfred right around the corner actually gets held, but quick enough that he can run down a lot of quarterbacks from behind.
Plunkett punting for Missouri. McClellan back to receive for the Buffs at about the 12. Gets around the corner. He's got a lot of room. Cuts it back to midfield. Gets to about the 50. A nice run back by Dave McClellan. Mike Jadlow brings him down. We'll be right back in Columbia.
For time.
1st and 10 for the Buffs. The pitch to the enemy. Up across the 45, down to about the 40 of Missouri. Maurice Benson makes the tackle. We're under the 5-minute mark in the first quarter. Missouri leading 7-0.
When you play an option team, number 18 in your screen, Sharon Washington, at free safety is going to make a lot of tackles. You see him coming all the way across the field. Of course, he's the one that gets to Bieniemy first. It's not unusual when you play a team like Oklahoma or Colorado, Nebraska that runs the option, that your free safety might have 12 to 15 to 18 tackles when it's all done.
Bieniemy gained 8 yards on that last play. He's averaging 129 yards a game. The give goes to the first man through, Hemingway, and he pulls his way down to the 32 of Missouri.
And here's a case, I think, where Colorado's just saying, hey, we're bigger, we're stronger up front. If you want to stop us, you're going to have to stop the running game. Let those big folks come off the ball, and George Hemingway well into the secondary before anybody gets to him. Got to establish that fullback game. It makes it much easier to run wide, and it really takes a lot of pressure off a rather inexperienced quarterback in Charles Johnson.
Buffs making very good use of Hemingway this year, and he's coming through with flying colors. 1st and 10 from the Mizzou 32. Bieniemy inside the 30. Gain of about 4. We're under the 4-minute mark in the first quarter. Rob Harper making the stop on Bieniemy that time.
We mentioned the first 5 games, and every game the opponent of Colorado has scored first. That's remained constant here today as Missouri has taken a 7-0 lead, but Colorado has managed to battle back. I think if you look at last year, they didn't get behind too many times. They were only behind by more than 1 score once the entire season. That was against Oklahoma State.
Bieniemy had 143 yards last week against Washington. He's well on his way to another fine day, and he gets the pitch. He's got a lot of room here, should get into the end zone, and he does. The Buffs score their first touchdown of the afternoon.
What a great job by Bieniemy, but he should go give the ball to George Hemingway. And I hope we have a chance to see the block that Hemingway really nail somebody. Watch George Hemingway, the fullback. Follow him all the way. You can pick Bieniemy up later. Hemingway looking inside, and as he knocked the legs out from underneath Mike Riggenberg, the inside linebacker, which enables Eric to scamper into the end zone. Got to have that. Got to have people that knock folks down up front, and Colorado has a bunch of them.
That's how they teach it to you, isn't it, Dave?
Absolutely.
Jim Harper, the extra point, and we have a tie ball game in Columbia, Missouri. It's CU 7 and Missouri 7. Let's go down to the field, see what Mark McIntosh has. Mark?
Thank you, Les. You know, you've seen a lot of slips out here today. Normally on artificial turf, the Buffs wear a shoe that's just like a tennis shoe. But because of the slippery turf out here, they've gone to a cleat like this. You can see it's got about a 1/4 inch cleat on it. A little more traction for the Buffs, and you saw Bieniemy had no trouble there getting into the end zone. Back upstairs.
With that touchdown, Eric Bieniemy moves into 2nd place on the CU all-time scoring list, only behind Bobby Anderson, but maybe even more important. Eric Bieniemy has 127 yards rushing already in this first quarter. He is 2 yards away from becoming CU's all-time leading rusher.
You can see right there, once he breaks that initial line of scrimmage, really an excellent job of weaving through the Missouri secondary. He is the heart and soul of this team. He really is the leader, both on and off the field, or at least one of the leaders. Very competitive kid. He's tough, hard-nosed player, and I think next year a lot of fans around the country will enjoy seeing Eric Bieniemy playing for some National Football League team.
He reminds a lot of people of Barry Sanders, and a lot of NFL scouts thought Sanders might be too small to play in the NFL, but he led the league in rushing last year, and Eric Bieniemy ought to have some success up there also. CU kicking off. Back to receive is Skip Leach from Missouri. Has a seam, skips across the 30-yard line. The scoring drive for Colorado went 4 plays, 50 yards. It took just 1 minute and 45 seconds, culminating in the Bieniemy touchdown run.
We talked about the Missouri offense, which worried Bill McCartney, but they also felt they could run the football. Last year in Boulder, Colorado amassed 401 yards in total offense in the first half against this Tiger team. So defensively, really, Colorado feels like they can control Missouri.
Last year, the Buffs blew out the Tigers up in Boulder 49-3. CU has won the last 5 meetings between the two teams. 1st and 10 from the 32 from Mizzou. Kiefer will throw. Maybe. Kind of. A lot of pressure on Mr. Kiefer. This telecast is an exclusive presentation of KCNC TV and the National Broadcasting Company. It's intended for the private use of our audience. Any reproduction or rebroadcast of this game without the expressed written consent of KCNC-TV is prohibited.
The defensive linemen like to take shots at quarterbacks, and Canavis McGee actually got knocked off his feet. Was able to regain his footing and got to Kiefer just as he was delivering the football. That's a pretty good way to really cramp an offensive style if that quarterback is starting to feel pressure up the middle.
2nd and 10 for Missouri from their own 32. Over the middle, complete. And up across the 40-yard line goes number 40, Michael Jones, the fine Missouri fullback.
Well, Jones played tailback last year, but he's moved back to fullback, and Bob Stoll thinks he's more comfortable there. He's an excellent pass receiver. You can see Kiefer with some time, and Jones out of the backfield, just circling underneath the coverage. Chad Brown chasing. He and Beekert finally get there, but not before Jones picks up the first down.
Chad Brown has had a busy afternoon so far. Missouri trying a lot of these short passes over the middle. It was a first down for Missouri. 2:50 left in the first quarter. First down and 10 from their own 42. The give goes to Cahill, and he is across midfield down to the Buffs' 48-yard line. Deion Figures up to stop him.
The only way really Missouri is going to be able to establish some sort of running game is after they throw the ball. Colorado is so conscious of the passing game. You see Canavis kind of sucked down inside the counter tray. McGee loses his footing again. Beekert gets blocked, and Cahill, who's one of the fastest Tigers, into the secondary before Deion Figures can get off a block and make the tackle.
Dave, a lot of people talk about the running game opening up the passing game. It seems Missouri does it just the opposite way. The passing game allows them to run. 2nd down and 1. Kiefer will throw deep again. The 3rd time he's gone long today. Wide open, touchdown Missouri. Number 6, Damon Mays, blasts by the defensive back. A 49-yard touchdown pass.
I'll tell you what happened. Colorado in double coverage. Mays runs by McClure. Tim James picks him up from his safety spot and then just runs away from it. Looks like James thinks he's going to the post. You can see Tim James looking inside, and Damon Mays right up the seam, up the hash mark, and Mays, the fastest of the Tigers, splits that zone, runs past McLuhan, and Tim James just took off thinking it was going to be to the post. And the Tigers have 2 quick touchdowns through the air.
Under the 2-minute mark in the first quarter, Missouri already with its 2nd touchdown of the afternoon. Jackie with the extra point, and Missouri takes a 14-7 lead.
Missouri in maximum protection that time, and Mays was the only Tiger out on the pass route other than the other wide receiver. And again, Tim James in perfect position as the safety to pick up that route. Saw him, he turned, he's running, but as he runs, he drifts to the inside. Now James will be in the right corner, top corner of your screen. You'll see him as the ball's in the air. See Tim James there, turn inside, run to the post. The ball's thrown up the seam.
That was a Willie Mays type catch over the shoulder.
Well, he can run. Damon Mays is a 4.35 guy in the 40-yard dash, and once he gets past that initial defender, there aren't too many players going to be able to catch up to him.
This Missouri team really thrashed Arizona State last week. Number 21 ranked Arizona State 30-9, and it was their first win over a ranked team since 1983. They're threatening to do it again this week.
Unlike the Washington game of last week, in which the Huskies scored on the opening drive, and then Colorado really toughened up defensively, Washington had 21 yards the rest of the half. After that big drive, Missouri has been able to knock in a couple of scores, and they've done it with the passing game, and of course that's no surprise. That's what Bill McCartney expected coming in here.
Well, Eric Bieniemy has been a real workhorse for the Buffs in this first quarter, so he's going to get a rest on this kickoff. Dwayne Davis is back taking his place along with Mike Pritchard, but neither one will get a chance to return it because that kick by Jackie went completely out of the end zone on a fly. Tonight on Channel 4, Catch the Beat, Broncos Beat with Peter Ogat and Jim Ryan. They'll bring you up to date on all the latest Bronco news and give you an inside preview of Monday night's game with Cleveland. That's Broncos Beat tonight at 6:30 right here on Channel 4, your Broncos station.
Missouri with 105 yards in total offense in the first quarter, much of it through the passing game. Colorado has 131 yards, and of course, all of that has been on the ground.
If you're joining us late, Charles Johnson, in a quarterback for the Buffs, gives to the first man through Hemingway. And a gain of about 2 yards for the big fullback. Johnson in the game because Darian Hagan is still bothered by a bad shoulder sprain, his left shoulder. He probably will not play at all today. Ringenberg makes the tackle. Here's the scoring drive for Missouri. 4 plays, 68 yards. They are wasting no time putting points up on the board here. We're under the 130 mark. Missouri leads 14-7. Hemingway gained 1 yard on that last play. 2nd and 9 for the Buffs from their own 21. This time the enemy trying to dodge out 2 or 3 Missouri Tigers and doesn't get very far. Gerald Fletcher makes the stop.
Colorado's been very good with the isolation play early going here. The enemy has bounced a couple of those to the outside. This time, instead of going through the hole, which is the right tackle, you can see Eric trying to make something happen to the outside. And an excellent job of staying home by Gerald Fletcher, who got off the block and forced the enemy to turn inside.
40 seconds to go in the first quarter. CU has run for 132 yards. Missouri for -1, but it's just the opposite in the passing game. 3rd and 6 for the Buffs. Johnson will throw. A good rush. The screen to the enemy. A lot of room. Has the first down and more up across the 36. Mike Jadlow stopped him.
And really, Colorado's most successful passing play this year might very well be the screen play. Had a big gainer against Texas, also against Stanford. And, of course, an excellent job there by Charles Johnson, drawing the defense to him. The offensive lineman trying to get out in front of Eric Bieniemy. And that time, Joe Garton trying to get a block, just had Eric run right up his backside.
Michael Simmons and John Bowman back in the ball game for the Buffs. Wing back and tight end respectively. 1st and 10. We're nearing the end of the first quarter. Will they get the play off? Yes, with 1 second to go. That's Hemingway. Bulls his way to the 39-yard line. Gain of about 3. And that is the end of the first quarter. Missouri leading 14-7.
Today's game is being brought to you by Samsonite and by Grease Monkey, both proud companies for Colorado, by U.S. West, and by Taco Bell.
First quarter just ending in Columbia, Missouri. Let's go down to the field and Mark McIntosh. Mark?
Thank you, Les. Missouri coach Bob Stoll has got to be thrilled. His team put 2 touchdowns on the board in the first quarter. The Tigers had a strong win at their back. That aided the passing game. Now Missouri's going to have to go into a stiff win this second quarter. That should hamper the passing game, but Keeper can throw the ball short just as well as he can throw it long. But look for Missouri maybe to try to keep the ball on the ground, more control the ball in the second quarter, actually. Back upstairs.
Thanks, Mark. That's a great point, Dave. Start of the second quarter. 2nd and 6 for the Buffs from their own 39. Charles Johnson, the short toss to his tight end. That's John Bowman, who gets it across the 45.
Well, they may not have got this play from this team, but who does this look like? Little counter pitch, fake. If you put a number 7 on Charles Johnson's back, would it look like a play the Broncos have run a little bit? The fake toss, you'd slide the tight end out to the flat after he blocks the linebacker, and Bowman with his first reception of the game.
First down for the Buffs on their own 49. It's Simmons with the carry, gets it across the 50, and there's a flag on the field. The preliminary call by Dave Logan is holding on the Buffs. Let's see if you're right. Absolutely.
That play didn't look right from the start as Ariel Solomon pulled from his left tackle spot to lead Michael Simmons, but usually you'll pull 2 players. Solomon, you see, on the counter, and the hold, I think, is on John Bowman as he tries to pin the defensive lineman, actually the outside linebacker, inside, and had a hold of Gerald Fletcher by the shoulder pads.
So it'll be a 1st and 20 for CU from its own 39. All right, Charles Johnson, the starting quarterback for the Buffs today, is a great story. A year ago last spring, he wasn't even sure if he'd still be at school at CU. He was having some financial difficulties. What a difference a year and a half makes. Here he is starting in the Big 8 conference opener for CU in 1990. Bieniemy up the middle and not very far. Brought down by Mike Ringenberg, Missouri's fine inside linebacker.
Colorado, of course, a lot of folks have tried to analyze them offensively from last year. And really, this is a team that if you get in third and more than 3 situations, they are not very good. Even last year, 3rd and 3 or less, they converted 88% of the time last year. But 3rd and 3 or more, it was about 35%. Now, they're less this year at 3rd and 3 conversions, but they're a little better in 3rd and long. So it's a team that has to really be effective on 1st and 2nd down in order to be successful.
Well, right now it's 2nd and 16. Johnson will keep it. Slips and falls. He's had a lot of trouble keeping his footing. Doesn't even get to the 45. Harry Colin brought him down, or at least was in the area when Johnson went down.
Well, this, like the first or second play of the game, has a chance to be a big play if Charles can keep his footing. Excellent block by Michael Simmons on Ringenberg, but Johnson slips down, and now you've got a 3rd and long, and of course with an option attack, this is not a situation you want to find yourself in too many times.
One of the Buffs' 3rd down specialists, wide receiver Rico Smith, is in the ball game. It's 3rd and 15, and Johnson will put it up. Wide open in the middle was Pritchard, but Johnson threw it behind him. Pritchard in 1st down territory, but Johnson couldn't get him the ball. George Hunt was putting pressure on Johnson. And if Pritchard had caught that, he probably would have had room to roam. 4th down, Tom Ruin, the All-American punter for the Buffs, back at his own 30. Maurice Benson will receive it for Missouri. Good athlete, this Benson. Averages 17 yards on his punt returns. Ruin, a great play. Almost had it blocked. Decided not to punt. Got it off anyway. And at the 15-yard line, Maurice Benson is brought down. Let's see that again. Somebody missed a block there, Dave.
Well, you talk about the play of the game. We'll have a chance to take a look at it when we come back to Columbia.
Well, Missouri has a pretty good broadcasting school, but they don't know a whole lot about TV shows, because while we were away, Missouri ran 2 plays, and now on 3rd down, Missouri gets it across the 30-yard line and a 1st down. Missouri waits for no one, Dave.
Well, they certainly haven't waited for the Colorado defense. You can see the tight end kind of slide across, and this is pretty much the same play as Colorado used in the past as the fullback. Michael Jones just slips to the outside. Again, an excellent receiver coming out of the backfield. And the Tigers have the kind of offense that they're going to complete some passes. They're going to pick up some yards. You're not going to be able to completely shut this offense down.
11:35 to go in the 1st half. Missouri leads it by a touchdown. That's Sean Moore with the carry across the left side and across the 35. Joel Steed, the big nose tackle for the Buffs, makes the stop.
I mentioned they'd complete some passes, but that's what you cannot allow them to do on 1st down, to pick up 4 and almost 5 yards by running the football. Got to make sure you take care of the run, and you know they'd like to pass, but if they can go back there and run and pass and pick up that kind of yardage, you've got yourself a real problem.
You saw a good shot of somebody on the Buffs sideline lacing up some shoes. A lot of these players are changing shoes now because of the slippery conditions on the field. Under the 11-minute mark, it's 2nd and 6 for Missouri. Kiefer to throw into the wind. A short one, incomplete. That ball is dropped by number 82, David Frisch. Very catchable ball. It'll be 3rd down for the Tigers.
And so far this afternoon on 3rd downs, Colorado really has played a fairly basic defense. I wouldn't be surprised to see them bring some people. Of course, that last drive against Washington, the heart-stopping drive in which Washington did not score, and Colorado with a big interception. The Buffs blitzed on the 3 downs prior to that 4th down play.
Speaking of heart-stopping, this shouldn't be unusual to us. Every game this year CU has been involved in has been decided in the last 2 minutes of play. 3rd and 6 for Missouri. They are throwing. Almost a fine catch by Damon Mays. He lost his feet, still kept his head, but the ball popped right off his chest.
And
he was hit by Dave McCluen.
Watch the bottom of the screen. Eric Hamilton, number 6, the nickelback. Here he comes on the blitz. Williams is picked up, but Hamilton's got a free shot. Jumps over the top of Kiefer, and that's what disrupts the rhythm of the passing game, and the throw just a little bit off.
Wasn't hard to tell Missouri was throwing that down. They had no running backs lined up behind Kiefer. So Missouri will punt. Plunkett with a nice long spiral, and McCluen calls for a fair catch at his own 20-yard line. So with 10:39 to go in the first half, the Buffs have the ball. They are down 14-7. And a look at Darian Hagan.
And what you got to do offensively now is forget what's happened. You've been able to move the football. A nice long drive and put some points on the board before the half, and of course you go in an even ball game.
Well, every Sunday night during the football season, you can tune in to Dave Logan with Buffs head coach Bill McCartney at 10:35 on Channel 4. That's the Bill McCartney Show, Sundays at 10:35, following the News 4 Late Edition, right here on Channel 4, the home of the CU Buffs.
Those shows are always more fun to do when you win. Now, I was kidding Mac a couple of shows ago after the Illinois game. We haven't had much practice at doing a losing show the last couple of years. Makes it kind of nice. You can see some of the statistics offensively. Of course, Colorado stymied in the first half against Washington. They put over 200 yards in the Huskies in the third quarter alone. It's an explosive offense. You lose a little bit of that explosiveness, of course, with Darian Hagan sitting on the sideline.
Come on, Mizzou!
But still, they've been able to move the ball on the ground against Missouri, and that's probably what you'll see them do a lot in this particular drive.
Well, as is the custom, right before the conference opener, the Buffs named their team captains. On offense, it's All-American Joe Garton, and on defense, another All-American, Alfred Williams. Garton in right now, anchoring that offensive line as the Buffs have it 1st and 10 from their own 20. Johnson, a good rush, and he will go down for a loss of 3 yards. Gerald Fletcher hit him first. Then he got some help from his teammates.
Well, first down play action pass. Colorado sending only 2 receivers in the pattern. Mike Pritchard on the left side. They sent Bowman to tie it in on the right side. Both were covered. And CJ with no place to throw the ball. And really doing the smart thing. Pull it down. Get as many yards as you can and line up, but don't force the throw when nobody's open.
A very improved Missouri defense. They've already exceeded last year's sack total. Under 10 minutes to go in the first half. 2nd and 12 for CU from its own 18. Johnson will keep it. Slips again. He is really having problems with the shoes. Jermaine Wilkins, the first one in there to hit him.
Well, he's going to have to find some new dogs. I mean, you got to get some new shoes somehow, some way, because there have been several big plays, 3 of which I can count, that Charles could have made positive yards, but he's lost his footing. And some folks will say, well, I mean, he's got to learn how to run under control. You can't do that when you're running the option game. Well, you've got to let her go, and you can't worry about slipping down with bad shoes.
If you're running in control, you're running tentatively. And there's a good chance of getting hurt if that happens.
You're going to get smacked, I can tell you that.
3rd down and 8. The Missouri fans really bringing up the roar now. Johnson with time, has a receiver, but not enough for the first down. Hemingway makes the catch at the 26 and out of bounds. And CU will have to punt. Maurice Benson was right there to put the hit on Hemingway. The fans showing their appreciation for the Missouri defense. Missouri hasn't seen any running teams this year like the CU Buffs, so considering it's the first time they've gone against a team like this, particularly an option team, they're doing one whale of a job. Tom Ruin. Punt goes back and still going back. Inside the 15-yard line, still rolling. And the Buffs will down it at the Missouri 11-yard line. Let's go down to the field and Mark McIntosh.
Thank you, Les. Dave Logan was talking earlier about Charles Johnson, how to change shoes. Well, Dave, he's already changed to that longer cleat. He could go back to the tennis shoe, but I think he'd have trouble, even more trouble on the slippery surface. So it's going to be a tough chore all day long to keep footing on what is a very slippery surface. Back upstairs.
I tell you this, I see a lot of other guys that aren't slipping down. So that's the only cleats they've got. We got to get some new cleats. We can air freight them in, or somehow they got to be here by the second half.
Maybe somebody has some stickum on the sideline. He can lay on the bottom of those shoes. That's Cahill on the draw from Missouri. Gains maybe 1, maybe 2 yards.
But Tom Ruin had to be smiling coming off the field that last time. He hit that ball rather low and got a terrific bounce. Seems like when you're a good kicker, you get bounces like that. And Ruin got about the last 25 yards in the ground.
He hit it low, but well away from the punt receiver. Caught a break. Missouri with its worst field position of the day right now. At least starting with their worst field position of the day. Under the 8-minute mark in the first half from Columbia, Missouri. A 2nd and 9 situation for the Tigers. Kiefer will throw, looking short. Has a man. Won't get very far. That was Damon Mays on the reception.
It's good defense. Colorado changing defenses that time, and Beekert slides out with some help on the outside by Deion Figures. And although they pick up 6 or 7 yards, again, it's a lot like a basketball game with this kind of offense. You just go to a certain spot, you sit, you wait for the ball, you get open, and if you've got a good, smart veteran quarterback, he's going to be able to pick up a few yards to open guys.
3rd and 5 for Missouri. Under 7 minutes to go in the half now. To throw again. Kiefer has a man open. First down yardage. It's number 40, Michael Jones, up to the 35-yard line. Stopping him is Tim James, the fine safety for the Buffs.
And as good as the coverage was the last play, this looks to be a blown coverage as Jones coming out of the backfield. Again, Eric Hamilton way behind. I'm not sure if it was a man-to-man coverage, but Hamilton looked to be in the middle of the field expecting some sort of help and never got it. Kiefer had pretty good pressure that time by CU. As Williams gets there a little bit late, as did Canavis McGee. Jones 4 catches for 39 yards.
That's an all-American sandwich. Canavis and McGee and Alfred Williams. 1st and 10 from their own 35. Play action from Kiefer, going deep again. It's going to be a jump ball, and Deion Figures knocks it away. Intended for Lindsey Collins.
Figures an excellent play, but I tell you what made this play possible. Alfred Williams. Watch Alfred Williams gets to Kiefer, and watch what Kiefer does when he sees it. I'm going to let this one go and get down. I mean, that thing looked like it was a punt when it took off. And Figures way up in the air to knock it down. Boy, secondary people love to see great pass rushes, and Figures at the end of this one gets the job done.
Well, that 36-inch vertical leap came in handy on that one. Good thing he's a good athlete, or that would have gone for 7. 2nd and 10. The give goes to Jones, who drags a couple Buffs with him across the 40-yard line to about the 42. Gain of 7. Marcellus Elder makes the stop. Check that, make it McGee.
Canavis McGee, I think this is a pretty good indication of how strong Michael Jones is. He bench presses 350 pounds. McGee with the right hand, and Jones is dragging him. Almost loses his drawers there, but runs out of his britches as McGee holds on with the left hand.
Good thing he didn't. You don't want that to happen on TV.
That's hard running, folks.
5:45 to go in the first half. 3rd and 3 for Missouri. Kiefer will throw again. A dinker over the middle and complete across the 50-yard line to Jones. Michael Jones getting a lot of work this quarter.
3rd and 3, and again Colorado in his own defense. Watch Beekert and Chad Brown, 2 linebackers, drop straight back. And of course, when you don't need much yardage and you've got a fullback that understands the complexities of zone defense and just hooks up right in the middle, that's an easy throw and an easy catch.
Another score from around the Big 8. The opener for these two teams also. Oklahoma and Oklahoma State tied at 7 going into the second quarter. Running play for Missouri. Somebody lost their helmet. It was a Buff, and it looks like Missouri lost some yardage on that play. That was number 26, Cahill, being stopped.
And Joel Steed lost his helmet.
Well, he didn't need it anyway.
Easy for you to say. Cahill with Steed and Howe. Howe up top, Steed on the bottom. There's Chip. Chip's worn out, isn't he?
He's working up a sweat. It's about 100 degrees down there on the field.
Then you put that uniform on.
2nd and 10 for Missouri. Kiefer rolls left, complete to the tight end, Linthicum. Picks up a few more, but nowhere near the first down. Chad Brown, another tackle. Chad Brown having a career day here today.
And again, that's what pressure can do for you defensively. You don't have to have a great coverage system if you are really getting people into the quarterback's face and forcing him to throw before he wants to. And 3rd down and long, again, you got to bring some people and force him to do things he's uncomfortable with. But it doesn't look like they are.
3rd down and 8. Missouri is in Buffs territory. Kiefer will throw. Sneaks out from behind the pressure. There's a flag on the field. The pass is complete to Jones, who gets it down to about the 38-yard line. That would be very close to a first down. Let's see what the penalty is.
That's coming back. I think that's got to be holding from where it was thrown, as Kiefer broke containment and then actually threw the ball back across the field. He could have run for the first down. Colorado rushing 4 players, and Alfred Williams got drugged down. That's Missouri's 5th penalty in the first half.
You're right again, David.
And at that time, really, CU with an excellent job of pressuring the Missouri quarterback with only 4 players. And see, conversely, Bob Stoll's saying, hey, wait a minute, they're dropping 7 guys. We got to protect better when they're rushing 4. We can't allow our quarterback to be forced out of the pocket that quickly, and that's exactly what happened.
Let's call it 3rd down and quite a bit for Missouri. 3:40 to go in this half. Missouri pushed back to its own 43-yard line. It is 3rd and 18. Kiefer in the shotgun. Good pressure from Williams and McGee, and they bring Mr. Kiefer down. Little bit of wrestling on the field. Broken up. Is there a penalty flag on the field?
Yes. Penalty actually came right after the ball was snapped. It had nothing to do with McGee or Williams and Kent Kiefer. May have been somebody lining up to offsides.
Dead ball. False start. Offense.
Missouri moved before the ball was snapped.
An illegal procedure call made against Missouri, so that'll send them back even further.
Colorado in the pass rushing situations, they put McGee and Alfred Williams on the outside. Alfred likes to get down in a 3-point stand. Canavis likes to stand up. Howe and Steed inside, and they come after you. Both McGee and Williams are really upfield rushers. They don't make a lot of moves and dip inside. They try to get you by running around the offensive tackles.
3rd and 23 for Missouri. Kiefer goes back under center. They're going to run it on a trap, and some good yardage for Ronell Cahill, but well short of the first down, and Missouri will have to punt with 3:15 to go in the first half. Missouri leading at 14-7. Very pretty day at Columbia Field. Very pretty day for Missouri fans so far. 14-7. The Tigers lead with 2:47 to go in this first half. Buffs have the ball. Charles Johnson under center and gives to Bieniemy. Almost breaks loose, drags a couple defenders with him up to about the 27-yard line. Call it a gain of 8. And Eric Bieniemy has become CU's all-time rushing leader, passing Charles Davis on that list.
Well, he passed a good one too. Charlie Davis back in the early 70s. Big, strong, good-looking running back. Broke a lot of tackles, a high stepper. Really broke in and had a great game against LSU down in Baton Rouge. That kind of set the tone for Charles' career.
2nd and 1 for the Buffs. That's Hemingway. Picks up the first down.
And I see you got to get out of the huddle and get to the line of scrimmage and not waste a lot of time, because you've got a little over 2 minutes remaining. Plenty of time to go down and score, but you can't waste a lot of time in the huddle.
A score from the Western Athletic Conference. The Colorado State Rams leading Utah at the half, 10-6. Both teams have all their timeouts left. Johnson The reverse to Pritchard.
Look out.
A lot of room on that sideline. The good block. One man to beat for Pritchard. He beats him. And the Buffs are in the end zone. Mike Pritchard with a 69-yard touchdown run on the reverse.
Boy, you talk about setting something up. And we have the advantage of seeing it from the press box, but when he gets the ball right there are two people that can get him. One you're going to see gets blocked, and I think one of the things right there, you see Mike Pritchard does such a great job of setting up the blocks, and he is about as elusive a player, I think, as Colorado has. Hagan runs through arm tackles, as does Bieniemy, but Pritchard really makes people miss more than any other Buffalo.
Jay Lewinberg threw a great block also. Harper with the extra point, and this game is all tied up with 1:45 left to go in the half. It's CU 14 and Missouri 14. On a Mike Pritchard 69-yard reverse run. Earlier in the season, a lot of people criticizing Coach McCartney for not using Pritchard, a pretty good weapon, enough, especially after that opener when he had 217 yards rushing against Tennessee, but he is more involved now and doing a very fine job. Jim Harper, the Buffs place kicker, puts that kickoff into the end zone, so Mizzou will start with it at its own 20-yard line with 1:45 to go in the half.
And now here's a case where you certainly have plenty of time if you're Missouri. 1:45 to go to dink down the field and get in position for possible field goal. You see the drive, not many plays and not much time off the clock. Mike Pritchard just effortless in the way he runs. It doesn't even look like he's moving, except he's leaving people. And really terrific at setting up blocks down the sideline.
Kent Kiefer having a fine day so far. 11 for 18, 2 touchdown passes. And he'll continue to throw against the wind. From behind, he's hit and fumbles the ball, and that's Canavis McGee recovering for the Buffs.
Yeah, that's going to be Colorado football. No question about it. Kiefer was not throwing the ball, and Canavis had to come right to him. Colorado in a base defense. They weren't in the pass rushing defense, the 34, and you'll see the pressure from the left side of the screen as Kiefer steps up, and Gary Howe reaches in with his right hand, and the ball just comes loose. Again, Howe making big plays when he's in the football game, and Canavis looking a little bit like a linebacker. Of course, Bill McCartney, I'm sure, wishing that Canavis puts the ball away. Got it out there like a loaf of bread, but big turnover for Colorado.
That's the way they teach it to you. Tackle with the left and punch the ball out with the right hand. And CU has a chance to take the lead right before the half. We have 1:35 to go in the first half, a tie ball game.
Plenty of time to run what you do best offensively. And I think you'll see CU with some sort of option play and then, of course, hurry back to the line of scrimmage. But you don't need to throw right here if you don't want to.
I would imagine the featured backs will be Hemingway and Bieniemy right now. From the 28-yard line, the pitch to Bieniemy. He slips and falls at around the 30. That might be a loss of a couple yards. Harry Cole in there to put the tag on him.
I don't know, however, if you want to stand around and waste a lot of time getting into and out of huddles. The clock now at 1:12 and counting. So you're going to be at about 60 seconds or so when this ball is snapped. And you've wasted about 15 to 18 seconds. So you got to pick up the pace here and maybe call the play at the line of scrimmage.
Ironically, the Buffs have all 3 timeouts left. Johnson will throw deep. Pritchard is open, but he's overthrown. Sharon Washington on the coverage, if you can call it that. A good pass, and the Buffs would have had a quick 7 again.
That may have been the case where the wind really hurts CU. There's a fairly stiff breeze behind Colorado, and Charles Johnson looked like he had that one on the money, and the thing just kept on sailing.
55 seconds left. The Buffs with 3rd and 13. The Missouri fans trying to help out the defense. Bieniemy with the draw up the middle. Down to about the 20, but he is short of the first down. The Buffs will have a shot at a field goal before this half ends. We're down to the 42nd mark.
And now where you want to let the clock run all the way down. Take as much time off as you possibly can. I think that's probably what Bill McCartney is telling his kids. Let that thing run down. It's a 29 now and counting.
I don't know if you can see him on your screen. The right side in the middle, Eric Bieniemy, is angry that the Buffs aren't going for it on 4th down and 3. He wants a shot to pick up the first down and keep this drive going. And it looks like McCartney might give him the chance to do it.
No, there's no way that's going to happen. You're going to kick the field goal and let the clock run down as far as you can and then call timeout and go ahead and line up and kick it. Well, they let it run down to 2 seconds, so they certainly waited. Eric may want a chance there, but I think common sense tells you you've got to line up and take 3 points. You've got an excellent kicker in Jim Harper, certainly within his range, about 37 yards. And after a first half of many mistakes and big plays by the Tigers, to take the lead like this after your only turnover is, I think, fairly uplifting for your club.
Isn't that typical of Bieniemy, though? McCartney calls him the greatest competitor he's ever seen, and you saw it there.
Yeah, players want to go for it all the time. You know, in pro football, though, players don't get fired. I mean, they fire coaches who go for it on 4th and 2 or 3, and this is a smart call.
Well, I don't think Mac has to worry about it, considering he just signed a 15-year contract.
No, pro football. Lester.
I understand, but what I'm saying is a college coach like McCartney doesn't have to worry about that at all.
Oh, you always got to worry about getting fired. Iowa State ahead of Kansas at halftime, 14-10. Miami ahead of Florida State, 17-0 in the second quarter.
And Nebraska is beating Kansas State 10-2. There's a 36-yard field goal attempt by Harper, and it's no good. It is wide to the right. So the Buffs blowing a great chance to take the lead going into the halftime locker room instead in Columbia. We are tied 14-14. Well, Dave, you and I are not so... All right, and let's take a look at some halftime statistics for you. First downs, it's even. CU certainly out rushing Missouri, but Missouri turning the trick the other way when it comes to the passing game.
Yeah, no surprise in those two categories. Colorado, you knew, would rush the football. The Tigers, you knew, would throw the football. Turnovers at 1 apiece, and really the possession time has not been a factor either. I think it's just been the case of Missouri taking advantage of their big plays and Colorado fumbling away a chance at 1 and really not capitalizing late in the first half for another.
So far, a very explosive game. Neither team taking much time on their offensive drives.
Well, when you throw the ball like Missouri does, you know you're going to score some points, and occasionally you're going to score quickly. That's probably what Colorado was most concerned with. They knew they'd give up some yardage on the short passes, but they also didn't want Missouri to score quickly, and that's exactly what happened.
All right, we'll come back pretty soon and get ready for that second half kickoff. McIntosh has some news from the CU side. Mac?
From the CU locker room, Les, I guess Bill McCartney is very concerned about this ball game. We have a report that Darian Hagan will start the second half. Despite that shoulder problem, Bill McCartney, concerned with his 14-all tie, he will put Darian Hagan in the ball game in replacement of Charles Johnson. Back upstairs.
Thank you, Mark. You know, at the beginning of this game, McCartney thought it would be a more prudent decision not to play Hagan. He has the shoulder sprain. They're calling it a second-degree separation. He is wearing a special pad underneath his regular shoulder pads, and it is his left shoulder, his non-throwing shoulder. But with a close ball game like this, Dave, 14-all, Mac is throwing out the prudency and bringing Hagan back into the ball game possibly. What do you think of that?
Well, I'm sure Darian wanted to play. I talked to him on the plane yesterday, asked him how he was feeling. He said much better. And you know that it's been well chronicled. He's such a competitive kid. He wants to play. I think really the offense has moved the ball rather proficiently, and I'm not sure that the problems have been entirely at quarterback. Charles Johnson's had his difficulties keeping his footing, but in a situation like this, and of course the medical staff would know best, but I'd kind of like to see Hagan remain on the sideline. And of course the primary job here, the goal, is to win the football game. I'm obviously sure that's what Bill McCartney's trying to do. And I don't think, matter of fact, I know he would not put Hagan in the game unless he felt like that the shoulder was able to stand up to the pounding that he ultimately will have to deal with.
Well, we don't know for sure yet that Hagan is in fact going to start the second half or play at all. We'll find out after Missouri has the ball. The kickoff to the Tigers. Harper puts it back to the 3-yard line.
Down,
and yes,
right there.
A knee down in college, whether somebody touches you or not, means you are down. Jason Oliver was the man trying to return that ball. Instead, Missouri will start with it at its own 3-yard line.
Well, we've talked about the slipping all the time. You can see right there, actually, both knees down to the 3-yard line. And the National Football League, you'd be able to get up and continue. But as you said, Les, in college football, one knee down constitutes a tackle, or at least a down, and that's where Missouri will start with the football.
Kiefer so far with 152 yards in the air for the Tigers. Every game this year, he's thrown for 200 plus. 1st and 10 from its own 3-yard line. Missouri gets it across the 10. Gain of 7 yards on the play. Nine yards for the Tigers on their first play in the second half.
I think Greg Thomas has injured his left shoulder coming up to make that tackle. Of course, Missouri starting from the 3-yard line. They started in a closed formation with no wide receivers and really got good yardage on first down.
Greg Thomas, a starting safety for the Buffs, 6'3", 220-pound junior from California. When he comes out, Dwayne Davis usually comes in, the sophomore from Gulfport, Mississippi.
Thomas is a big hitter, and at times delivering a blow, you can get a stinger running right down your neck and through your shoulder. And let's hope that's all it is.
2nd and 2 for Missouri. To the fullback, Jones. Close to the first down. All depends on how the Zebras mark it. Still haven't gotten a signal yet. Now we do. It's 3rd down and inches for Missouri. Deep in its own territory.
And the same formation they came out with on first down. You'd think it's probably going to be a run.
And you were right. Cahill.
He didn't make it.
Stacked up at the 11-yard line. It'll probably be a loss of a yard or two.
You know, when you have a great passing offense, the personality of your club is one that really, at times, just does not enable you to knock people off the line of scrimmage and to pick up a yard or 2 yards. That's what really troubles a lot of great passing teams. When it gets down to 3rd and 1, 2, or 3, and you got to run the ball, you just miss blocks up front because you're used to pass blocking.
Dave McCluen back to receive the punt for the Buffs. Plunkett gets it off, a nice kick, sends McCluen back to his own 38-yard line, has room on the right sideline. This is going to be a long one. Getting a bead down at the 18-yard line. A couple of Missouri defenders knocked McCluen out of bounds. Mark Plunkett, the punter, had to make the tackle, but McCluen with a 40-yard plus return on that punt. 43 yards.
He runs a little bit like Mike Pritchard. He runs effortlessly, and to look at him you think, he's not running that fast, but all of a sudden he starts to eat up yardage, and just an excellent job of setting up the wall, and Dave McCluen with enough speed to get to the wall, turn the corner, and 43 yards later you see Darian Hagan, a quarterback.
Darian Hagan in the ball game for the first time today despite the shoulder sprain, his left shoulder. The give to the enemy. Hurdles a couple tacklers down inside the 15-yard line. Gerald Fletcher finally got a hold of him.
Now keep in mind, just because Darian Hagan is in the game with the injured shoulder, there are a lot of plays that Colorado can run that will have Hagan do no more than turn around and hand off the football. Even an option play or a play that looks to be an option, it can be a direct give to the fullback. The key will be how Hagan runs when he has to run to his left and may be forced into pitching with that left shoulder.
That's if they run the ball to the left, Dave. 2nd and 6 for the Buffs on the Missouri 19. Hagan grabbed on that left shoulder. I'm sure everybody on the CU sideline cringing at that one. Fletcher brings him down.
Well, that's going to be all right. That kind of tackle really can't injure you. The tackle that will tell as to how Hagan really is when he gets driven into the turf. This time just a good job of getting off the block by the outside linebacker, Gerald Fletcher, and Hagan loses some yards.
Sean Brown, the CU tight end, bringing in the new play from the sidelines.
See, really, it's not the defense that causes the injuries more times than not. It's the turf.
3rd and 11 for CU. Hagan will run and go down very quickly. A loss of 1 yard. It'll be 4th down for the Buffs, and Harper will come into the ball game to attempt another field goal. Tom Reiner made the tackle that time.
And again, a tough job with the footing. Sometimes when a surface gets old, as the tartan floor here seems to be, it's kind of like an ice rink.
Harper will be attempting a 35-yard field goal. We're tied at 14-all. This one would put the Buffs ahead by 3. He is 5 of 10 on the year so far in field goal attempts. That one is up and good. A good job by the holder on that play, Charles Johnson, because the snap was a bit behind him, and the Buffs take the lead. Jason Oliver receiving the kickoff from Missouri. Room up the middle, cuts to the outside, across the 30, across the 35, and pushed out of bounds by Mr. Harper at about the 36-yard line. The kicker, Harper, had to knock him out of bounds, or who knows how far Oliver would have gone.
What happens here, the kick to the left side and the right side contained gets knocked down. And Harper, with enough presence, actually Oliver, bounces to the outside right there. There's the contained man on the floor. And you can see Jim Harper with pretty good speed and sticks his head in there to knock the ball carrier out of bounds.
46,856 people here at Faurot Field on Parents Weekend at the University of Missouri. Mine chose to stay in Phoenix. Dave's chose to stay in Colorado. Kiefer goes back to pass, and the ball is knocked down by a CU defensive lineman.
What you saw that play, really, Missouri keeping both backs in to block. You can see the play action fake, the lead blocking, but I think what's happening here, Colorado's starting to pressure Kent Kiefer with the pass rush, and when you can force backs to stay in the pocket and pick up the blitzes or people coming, of course, you eliminate some of the receivers. Missouri had 2 wide receivers and a tight end in the pattern of Colorado, of course, had 7 defensive players.
2nd and 10 for Missouri from its own 36. We're at the 10:40 mark in the 3rd quarter. Kiefer to throw with the wind again. Intercepted. I think it's McLuhan. Inside the 35-yard line. Dave McLuhan with the interception of the Kent Kiefer pass, the first interception for the Buffs today. And Missouri will take over once again in Missouri territory.
But again, in this offense, it's predicated on receivers and quarterbacks seeing and doing the same things. And I think this time Kent Kiefer actually thought that the receiver was going to come inside. And Dave McLuhan from the cornerback position was in a defense that called for him just to sit and wait for things to come to him. So McLuhan's in the flat. You can see Kiefer getting roughed up a little bit by Joel Steed. That's one of the really the only bad throws Kiefer's made today.
Looked like simply a matter of he didn't know McLuhan was ready to come back in there and make that interception. 1st and 10 for the Buffs from the 32 of Missouri. Hagan keeps it and doesn't go anywhere. Loss of 2 yards. Harry Colin there to put the tag on him.
And Les, really with the turf the way it is now, it almost takes the option game completely away, because you can't make the sufficient cuts and the quick reads in order to make that kind of offense work. So you're going to have to line up in the power eye, the eye bone, and run a lot of leads, a lot of toss sweeps, a lot of power football, just simple handoffs, and forget the option.
Loss of 1 on that last play. 1st and 11 for CU.
Like that. Then of course you got to block.
First man through. Gain of about 1 yard by the enemy. Rick Lyle on the tackle. We just got word from the CU sideline and Mark McIntosh that Buffs starting safety Greg Thomas is out for the game with a concussion. We will not see Greg Thomas again today.
Good game in South Bend, Indiana. Notre Dame leading Stanford 31-29. So the Cardinal looked to be for real, if there were some folks that didn't think they were.
3rd and 10 for Darian Hagan and the Buffs. He will throw. No, he'll pitch to the enemy. Bieniemy well short of the first down, wrestled out of bounds by a couple of Tigers, including Harry Colin. Everybody going over to check if Mr. Bieniemy's okay. He was taken about 10 yards out of bounds here.
This was a play they put in for the Stanford game that really worked well. Hagan, see, he can't pitch it with the left arm, so he has to underhand it with his right hand. He takes a pretty good pop as he let it go, and then Bieniemy gets run out of bounds all the way into the Missouri bench. But you can see the problems as Eric Bieniemy comes off the field holding what looks to be his right arm. The problem is trying to run any type of option game to the left. It doesn't look like Darian Hagan can pitch the football with his left arm.
Personally speaking, it sure worked well. It fooled me. I thought Hagan was going to throw. Harper in for a long field goal attempt. This will be a 49-yard try for Harper. Into the wind, and it is well short. It's right on line, but it's about 5 yards short. Under normal conditions, the Buffs would have put 3 more points on the board. As it is, they maintain a 17-14 lead with 9:04 left in the third quarter.
And the Missouri fans really getting involved in the game. This is the quarter that the Tiger offense is going to have to try to put something on the board because they have the distinct wind advantage. And so far, the Colorado defense has been up to the task.
Well, while we have a second, I'd like to tell you to watch the Dan Reeves Show. 6:30 every Monday night, unless it's a Monday night game like this coming week, and it'll be Tuesday night at 6:30. The Dan Reeves Show right here on Channel 4, your Broncos station. Fumble on the play. A big pile up. We'll have to wait to see who recovered it. Missouri has the ball in its own territory. Let's see if they keep it.
Say, guys, never like to get up off the pile when the ball is loose. Even if you don't have it, you don't like to get up.
Number of Missouri players indicating they have kept the ball with a little extra yardage out of it.
Let's take a look at it. You can see the ball. Watch it. It's going to be pulled loose, and I think it's going to be, that's Chad Brown. Beaker was also in on the tackle. The ball was pulled loose. Ronell Cahill, or one of his Tiger teammates, able to get it back.
The fumble forward gained Missouri another couple or 3 yards, and it'll be 2nd and 4. 8:40 to go in the third quarter. Kiefer going deep once again. The man is beat once again, and a beautiful catch by Damon Mays. Damon Mays just running by anybody trying to cover him for another long pass completion for Missouri.
Well, this is a terrific play-action pass. 48 yards worth on the throw. We told you Damon Mays is the fastest player of the Tiger squad, a 4.3 guy in the 40. And he runs right by Dave McClellan, who bit just a little bit on that fake right there to Michael Jones. Play action, he comes back strong side. A go pattern all the way, no help from the safety, and a great catch by Damon Mays. That's a big-time catch. Watch him reach down in full stride, extend his arms, and almost pull that thing up off his kneecaps. That's a terrific catch by Damon Mays and a fine throw by Ken Kiefer.
And he must really have some big-time speed because Dave McClellan is one of the fastest Buffs on the field. Missouri calls a timeout. They are on the CU 14-yard line. And we're going to take a break in Columbia, Missouri. The Buffs ahead by 3.
A time to care message from United Airlines.
It's an idea that began thousands of years ago. People following the harvest, gleaning the food left behind. Today, the tradition continues all across America. Only the people are volunteers, harvesting food for those less fortunate, giving their time so that others will not go hungry.
This Time to Care message was brought to you by United Airlines, rededicated to giving you the service you deserve.
Taco Bell's done it again, oh my. $59.79.99. 3 new menus at a great new price. $59.79.99.
Check it out. All our favorites have great new prices, like our delicious soft Taco Supreme and our great tasting Nacho Supreme. So run for the border.
$59.79.99. Taco Bell's done it again. Run for the border.
Missouri with the ball. 1st and 10 from the Buffs' 14-yard line. This time the Tigers will run and not get very far. Word from the CU sideline. Well, not just word, but pictures also. Darian Hagan, the CU quarterback, getting his shoulder iced down right now. He is done for the afternoon. He came in for 1 series for the Buffs. Bill McCartney didn't want to take any more of a chance that shoulder sprain would get worse, pulled him out of the game, and Charles Johnson will be back in for the Buffs this second half. A gain of 1 yard on that last play for Missouri. 2nd and 9. 7:35 to go in the 3rd quarter.
Blitz.
Michael Jones, a lot of highway there, and into the end zone for a Missouri touchdown.
Well, you talk about a perfect play for the perfect defense. I said blitz as the play was being described, and hopefully we'll have a chance to see it. Chad Brown and Greg Beekert inside will come right up the middle, and they run right by Michael Jones. See the 2 inside linebackers? I'll tell you, good job offensively by Missouri as they picked up both inside guys. Canavis McGee gets knocked out or trap blocked by number 76, Don Wright. Actually, it's number 79, Mike Badowski. And Michael Jones is into the secondary. Once you blitz those inside guys in any kind of quick hitting play offensively, you're going to gain big yardage.
Jackie with the extra point attempt. It's good, and Missouri once again has the lead, 21-17. Well, CU doesn't necessarily like it like this, but every game so far has been exciting this year, Dave, and this one is no different. Missouri with a lead, 21-17 in the second half. Jackie kicking off. Dwayne Davis will catch it in the end zone, but he won't go anywhere with it. He downs it, and the Buffs will start with it at their own 20-yard line. Charles Johnson back in the ball game at quarterback for the Buffs.
Take a look at the scoring drive. 4 plays, 68 yards. The big pass to Damon Mays, and of course a 13-yard touchdown run by Michael Jones. And again, Colorado for the next 7 minutes and 30 seconds working against the wind, and it's a stiff breeze. So you just try to get good field position. Hopefully you like to score, but obviously you want to get it out of this end and force Missouri to work in a long field.
1st and 10 from their own 20. The stacked backfield. Johnson pitches to the enemy. He's cut off at the 23. Gain of 3 yards. Jason Oliver does the cutting off along with Harry Colin.
Well, Charles Johnson on the option play. Of course, as an option quarterback, you know you're going to get hit a lot, and CJ gets decked right there as Bieniemy picks up 3 yards. That was Rick Lyle, the outside linebacker, and of course everybody in different defenses, you've got different guys that are signed to the quarterback. That time it was number 59.
2nd and 7 for the Buffs. That goes to Greg Lindsey, the freshman from California, a redshirt freshman. Excuse me, James Hill, number 33. Lindsey is 23. James Hill, the freshman redshirt from Widefield High School, Colorado kid. And he gained 6 yards on that play.
And here, depending on what formation they line up in, you got to guess Bieniemy or the fullback, and probably on the right side where they've had success.
3rd and 2, and flags fly into the air.
Well, it was going to be Bieniemy, but it was going to be to the left side, and Colorado's entire left side of the offensive line jumped up. Boy, that's a key mistake. Instead of 3rd and 1.5 or 2, now you've got 3rd and 6.5 or 7. And again, as we mentioned, Colorado better this year in 3rd and long, but certainly as an option team, that's not a situation you like to get yourself into.
Well, better in 3rd and long with Darian Hagan at quarterback, but he's not in there right now. Charles Johnson is, and CU having a horrific day in 3rd down situations.
Yeah, they're 1 of 8, and it's tough to pick up a lot of yardage. I think most of those 8 times they've been 3rd and 6 or 7 or longer.
3rd and 8 from their own 23-yard line. 6:35 to go in this 3rd quarter. Bieniemy on the draw. Does he get the first down?
No. Going to be a little bit short.
You're right, by a yard or two. Maurice Benson there to stop the enemy.
Now, Colorado has shown a fake punt before, and they did it about this position of the field in their own territory last week against Washington. They've worked on many trick plays in the kicking game, but I don't know that 2 weeks in a row would be something you'd want to think about. Unless, of course, it worked, and then you probably want to think about it quite a bit.
Well, if you're wondering, the blocking back is Paul Rose. Keep your eye on him in case CU tries anything.
Missouri's coming, too.
Tom Ruin back to punt. Oh, another shank. Very uncharacteristic of Ruin. He shanked 2 punts today. This one goes out of bounds at the Missouri 48-yard line. Lance Noel for Missouri put the pressure on Ruin.
Well, the Tigers overshifted before the ball was snapped to the right side, and it looked like Tom Ruin, with the drop of the ball, actually almost misses the football. Now, he said it's fairly windy, but let's wait. Let's look and see if we can see it. He almost misses the ball from the drop to the foot. I mean, that ball, he kicked it right off his toe. And that was, of course, Ruin, an excellent punter who's got Colorado out of trouble a lot this year.
Coming into today, Ruin was 13th in the nation in punting with a 42.6 average from Littleton, Colorado.
Here's where you got to look for the big play after a turnover.
Kiefer looking deep, dumps it off, left sideline, can hold on to it. Pass intended for Tim Bruton, couldn't hold on to it.
Kiefer gets nailed by Gary Howe after he looks downfield and comes back. The helmet in the chest routine and the back of the head was the first thing that hit the ground for Mr. Kiefer. Stanford has defeated Notre Dame in South Bend 36-31.
Up the middle, Michael Jones down to the CU 30-yard line. 1st and 10, Missouri already with the lead, 21-17, and threatening to increase it. Deion Figures finally brought him down.
Missouri has set up the running game with the pass today, and the counter tray is the offensive lineman pull from the left side, and Jones through a gaping hole. Steed, Beekert both get blocked, and Figures from the right corner come down. You can see both offensive linemen from the left side pull. Do an excellent job of opening up. That's Rick Trumbull and Mike Badowski. Tigers looking pretty good offensively.
1st and 10 from the 30. The give to Cahill. Nowhere. Run that score by me again. Top-ranked Notre Dame lost.
Stanford 36, Notre Dame 31.
I guess it was just a matter of time for the Irish. Every game they've played, it seems, has been a close one.
Of course, you wouldn't think something like that would happen in South Bend, but...
And certainly not against Stanford.
For Stanford, pretty good team, as evidenced by how they played Colorado in Boulder. Came back and lost a tough one against UCLA.
2nd and 11 for Missouri. 4:40 left in this 3rd quarter. On the Buffs' 33-yard line. 3 wideouts for Mizzou, and they'll throw it. Screen pass. Michael Jones can't hold on to it. He had some room in front of him, too.
Yeah, that was going to be big, because the only Buff out in that area was Eric Hamilton, who had slipped down. Jones, an excellent receiver, and that ball just a little bit too far over his left shoulder on the screen. Michael Jones comes from the right side, will step up, get lost in traffic, and then head outside. And Kiefer had to throw it a little bit too early because of the pressure, and just a tad bit off. Here's where defensively you got to come up with a play. And again, as we said in the first half, I wouldn't be surprised to see Colorado bring some people and force Kiefer to maybe get rid of it.
And possibly push Missouri out of field goal range. 3rd and 11. Good rush. Kiefer keeps his feet. And then brought down at the 30-yard line. He gains 3 yards. Missouri will bring in the field goal unit. Jeff Jackie will make the attempt.
And look who got him. Gary Howe from your right side will come all the way around the bend. Kiefer slips down, and Howe gets off the block and gets his big hooks on Kent Kiefer before he can gain the first down.
Jeff Jackie, the Missouri sophomore, he's hit 2 of 4 field goals this year.
They certainly got the win.
This is a 46-yard attempt, and there's a flag on the field. Now, if this is a 5-yard penalty against CU, it still will not give Missouri a first down, but it will put them closer in field goal range.
Dead ball, illegal snap on the offense. Still 4th down.
It's going to be against the Tigers, and Jackie's going to have to crank it up a bit more.
Well, now you're talking about approximately a 51-yard field goal attempt. Check that. Make it a 45-yard attempt. No, I was right the first time. Math never was my best subject. 51-yard attempt. His long one this year is 46. That one's blocked by the Buffs. The ball is loose.
It's going to be Colorado's football.
And the Buffs will get the ball back. So Missouri trying to take a 7-point lead, instead keeps its 4-point lead. Let's take another look at that.
Good penetration. You'll see from the right side, it looked like, as Kanavis McGee with his big right hand up in the air, Dwayne Davis over the top, but McGee got the block, and then it's like a pinball. Guys trying to catch it off everybody else's helmets. Big stand right there for Colorado defensively, obviously.
The Buffs will start with it at their own 34. 3:28 left in the 3rd quarter. Charles Johnson back in at quarterback. Bieniemy tries to jump the pile. Gain of 1.
See what's happened now to the offense. They really haven't thrown the ball much the entire day. They can't get into the option game because of the footing, so they're relegated to running the isolation to Bieniemy or the toss sweep. And Missouri right now really moving those linebackers up inside and playing the inside defense, tackle to tackle, extremely tough.
They're also doing a better job knocking off the outsides, closing off the outsides to CU. Charles Johnson goes nowhere, no gain. It'll be 3rd and 10 for the Buffs. Rick Lyle was there to put the first hit on him. And some of the Missouri players trying to get these fans back into the act.
Mario Johnson for one.
A crowd of 46,000, the largest Missouri crowd of the year so far. 3rd and 10 for the Buffs from their own 35. George Hemingway, the slot back, in motion. The one back is Bieniemy. Johnson will throw the screen. Bieniemy, a nice catch, but goes down. He could have picked up that first down if he kept his feet. But we've seen this all day, David.
Well, what a great catch by Bieniemy, and you're right. He would have easily picked up the first down. Charles Johnson, a nice job of drawing the defense to him and dumps the football just in time. Bieniemy with the left hand, and right there, he's got 10 to 12 yards easily and just can't keep his footing. And CJ again takes another jolt.
Back to receive for Missouri. Number 23, Maurice Benson. He calls for a fair catch, and Missouri once again with pretty good field position. They've really had it most of the day, Dave.
Well, in the 3rd quarter, especially because Colorado's had trouble offensively and of course, trying to kick the football into that win, they've had their share of problems as well.
Missouri has the ball with 1:46 left to go in the quarter.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised to go on the 2-minute offense right here, even at the end of the 3rd quarter, because the wind is substantial enough that you want to take full advantage of it.
Whenever they've been going in this direction, the Tigers have thrown it deep. They've been throwing it deep a lot all day and been very successful at it. 1st and 10 from the 45-yard line.
I'll tell you.
Quick whistle.
We got guys falling down more than I think I've seen in many a football game. Ken Kiefer, the quarterback of Missouri, has had his share of problems trying to stand up as well. We walked in the field before the game, and of course we weren't being chased by anybody either. That time he may have been stepped on by his center, Brad Funk, as he came back. Let's wait and see if one of his feet. Oh yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. The left foot of one of the offensive linemen pinned his foot down.
2nd and 13. Kiefer, play action. steps up.
Oh,
Fumble.
that's a fumble.
Missouri will fall on it. I believe it was Canavis McGee who hit Kiefer and forced the fumble.
Well, we've seen some hard hits today, and Kent Kiefer is going to be one of the guys sitting in the whirlpool after the game. Pretty good play action fake. Nothing opens up, so he steps up into the pocket. But here's where you want to just run it and not take shots like that. Hello. Canavis McGee lifts him up in the air, and the Tigers now in a 3rd and long. See, right here, it's a step up in the pocket, but right there, pull it down, and you can see where people are coming from.
Less than 30 seconds in the 3rd quarter. Kiefer gives to Jones. Gain of about 3. It'll be 4th down for the Tigers.
And I tell you, Gary Howell made that play again with excellent penetration and turned the ball carrier, Michael Jones, back inside. That's the kind of stand that a championship team, a team that is going to contend for the Big 8 Conference crown, has to make when the ball's almost at midfield and you're down by 4 late in the 3rd.
2 seconds left in the quarter. Missouri will punt it with the wind.
Good return ball.
McLuhan at the 10-yard line tries it up the middle and gets racked by number 61, Chuck Cole. So at the end of the 3rd quarter, the CU Buffs behind. Missouri leads 21-17.
Today's game is being brought to you by Samsonite and by Grease Monkey, both proud companies for Colorado, by US West, and by Taco Bell.
Back in Columbia, Missouri, with the Buffs down 21-17. They have the ball. They'll start with it at their own 19-yard line with the wind at their back for the rest of the game. And a fairly strong wind it is, about 15 to 20 miles an hour out of the south here.
Well, here's a chance for the offense to really gain field position. You're only 4 points down. You do have the wind, and you just have to try to sustain something and get that ball to midfield where you can start to open up your entire offense. And again, the option game has really been limited because of the playing field.
Charles Johnson, the quarterback, pitches to the enemy. Nothing but a dead end. And that should be a loss of about 4 yards. Harry Colin was right there in Bieniemy's face.
See, Missouri is gambling defensively much the same way that Stanford and Texas did. They're bringing people. You can see there are a lot of folks in black jerseys standing up waiting for Eric Bieniemy on the perimeter.
2nd and 14 for CU.
Count the bodies in the black shirts up front right now. You count 8.
Bieniemy gets by those 8, brought down by a defensive back. He pushes it up across the 30-yard line. That will be very close to a 1st down. Jermaine Wilkins brings Bieniemy down.
And see, here's where the leadership of guys like Joe Garden and Eric Bieniemy and George Hemingway and guys that have been through the wars really comes to the forefront. Bieniemy just grinded in after he was hit initially, and enough for the 1st down.
1st and 10 from their own 30. Full house backfield. Johnson will throw.
Oh, got him
deep. Pritchard wide open. Should be 6. It is. The Buffs regain the lead. Charles Johnson deep to Mike Pritchard for 70 yards and the touchdown. And CU once again on top.
Boy, you talk about something opening up. The play action fake right here is when Maurice Benson, the cornerback, realized, uh-oh, I'm in trouble. And Mike Pritchard again with that graceful stride. Doesn't look like he's running, but all of a sudden he runs right by Benson. And Mike Pritchard has really been the catalyst offensively. 2 huge plays for Colorado here this afternoon.
Harper with the extra point. It's there. And CU goes on top 24-21 with 13:56 left in this ball game. While we were away, the CU Buffs kick off. It's a touchback, so Missouri will start with it at its own 20-yard line, and here's why CU kicked off.
Well, you don't see Mike Pritchard, actually the bottom of his screen. He runs right by Maurice Benson, and Benson tries to stick his left arm out and throw him off stride, but long, graceful strides by Mike Pritchard, and that's his second touchdown of the day.
A 70-yard pass reception and a 69-yard reverse run for Pritchard. 1st and 10 from their own 20. Kent Kiefer, the quarterback, the fine quarterback from Missouri. Fakes the run, goes over the middle to the tight end, Tim Bruton, across the 40. 6'5", 256-pound senior Bruton. First down for Missouri, and some words being exchanged on the field.
Thing that makes that play so successful, the play action fake, as Kiefer fakes the draw and both linebackers suck up. See if you can see, watch both linebackers on this fake right there to Jones. See, Beekert and Brown are already sucked up, and here's Bruton behind, and Tim James has to bring the big tight end down with some help.
Tim James giving up 50 pounds on that tackle. 1st and 10 for Mizzou, their own 42. Kiefer throwing against the wind. Good pressure from McGee, but Kiefer gets it off to number 27, Sean Moore, at midfield. Gain of 8.
So you're in a position now where your offense has had a big strike, quick touchdown. You've got the wind with you. I mean, you got to come up with some plays. You've got to rush the passer, get to him. You've got to get the right drops in the zone defense. If you're on the outside and you've got to hold up those receivers, you got to make sure they don't get away quickly and forced into that deep secondary where you only have 2 guys playing halves. And Colorado's got to make a stand here at midfield.
2nd and 2 for Mizzou. The pitch to Moore. Not very far, maybe 1 yard. There's a loose ball, but the play was called dead. Deion Figures makes the stop. Once again, a quick strike. That's the way it's been all day. Neither team wasting time in scoring. 3 plays, 80 yards that last drive for the Buffs. 1 minute 4 seconds.
I wonder how many games Bill McCartney and his staff can stand like this, close in the 4th quarter. It just seems like week in and week out, it's a nail-biter.
Every Buffs game so far has been decided in the last 2 minutes. 3rd and 1. Missouri picks up the first down. That's Michael Jones, the big fullback, inside the 45. .12:15 left in this ball game.
Pretty good job on the right side by the Missouri offense, and Jones just a quick slant. Strong enough, as we mentioned, one of the strongest Missouri backs, and yet has fine speed too.
1st and 10 from the CU 44. Kiefer, but Moore cannot hold on to it. We're under the 12-minute mark. Dave McClellan was on the defense there.
Kiefer's thrown for over 200 yards. Again, that's the 10th time or 10th consecutive game that the seniors had that. 14 of 26, 230 yards, a couple of scoring tosses, and only 1 pick.
Boy, they give you a different look every time out. I formation, T formation, 1 back, no backs. Kiefer will throw. 2nd and 10. Over the middle, complete to Bruton inside the 30-yard line. Kids come up with a couple of big plays this drive so far.
Well, Tim Bruton was a preseason All-American pick a couple of years ago and really has not lived up to that type billing, but he's made a couple of big catches in this drive. Here's a case where he just works on the right side of the screen against Chad Brown, pushes off a little bit, gets away with it, but it's a choice pattern. The tight end on that linebacker has the ability to either hook inside, or as you saw Tim Bruton do, hook to the outside. Kiefer's locked on him right from the go, and you just wait for a little clearing from the tight end and the linebacker, and they certainly got it.
1st and 10 from the CU 28. Lindsey Collins in motion. Kiefer going deep again. Collins can't get to it, however. Kiefer trying to lead him into the end zone. Collins could not get around the corner.
And that was the same play that Missouri ran earlier for the touchdown. And Victor Bailey caught in the 1st quarter the down and out and up, and that time excellent coverage by Dave McClellan.
Almost 47,000 at Faurot Field in Columbia, Missouri. Capacity here, 62,000. This is still more of a basketball town than a football town. Norm Stewart and the Tigers fill the stadium every week during basketball season. 2nd and 10 from the Buffs' 28. Kiefer looking downfield again into the corner of the end zone. Same play, overthrown. Same play to the other side, Dave.
Come back. You must come back. Where is he? He might get something to drink. There he is. David Mays. Actually, it's Victor Bailey. Excuse me. Bailey. Run a little down and up. He's in the slot. Looks back and takes it right up the sideline. And Kiefer waits as long as he possibly can. And folks, this is pretty close.
3rd and 10. 11:21 left. The Buffs up by 3 points. Over the middle. Incomplete.
Ooh, Chad Brown and Tim Bruton, the same play that Bruton last caught a pass. Bruton saying, hey, he held me. Brown saying, wait a minute, he was pushing off. Suffice to say, they got locked up and never cleared. And never any separation between the tight end that time and the linebacker. And the Buffs apparently have held.
Frankly, it looked like they held, Dave.
No pun intended, right?
Right. We'll call it a good defensive play and leave it at that. 4th down. Missouri trying for the tying field goal. Jackie with a 45-yard attempt. Against the wind. Does it have enough? Yes, barely. And Missouri ties up the ball game. Jackie with a 45-yarder against the wind. And we'll be right back in Columbia, Missouri. Well, if we were playing poker, this would be a pretty good hand. 2 pair. The scoreboard reads 24-24. The clock reads 11-11 left in the ball game. Mike Pritchard receives the kick at his own 6-yard line. And a seam, and Pritchard gets through it, finally tripped up at about the 32. Maurice Benson there to save the touchdown. And it would have been if Pritchard kept his feet. Good look at Charles Johnson, the junior quarterback, taking the place of the bruised Darian Hagan on this afternoon. 1st and 10 for the Buffs at their own 31. Bieniemy on the carry, brought down. Gain of about 2 yard lines. 2 yards, excuse me. Mike Regenberg, the tackle. Here's your scoring drive. Mizzou went 9 plays, 42 yards, culminating in a 45-yard field goal by John Jackie. Tie score, 24-24. 2nd and 7 for the Buffs. Only 2 running backs behind Johnson. First man through is Hemingway, and he's tripped up quickly. Maybe 1 yard. Mario Johnson there.
And had Mario Johnson not been there, Hemingway was off to the races, at least for the first down. Little cutback run by the fullback, and Johnson did a great job of getting off the block and really keeping that thing to a short game.
You can't see it right now, but on the far sideline, the Missouri players waving their arms into the air, getting the Missouri fans roaring, and it's working. 3rd and 6 for the Buffs. Do you throw here, Dave? Yes. Johnson.
Tight ends open. Oh, nice
runs
play.
The ball and just sneaks over the first down marker.
I'll tell you, that's a case of just wanting the first down, as they like to say. Sean Brown, number 87, drags across the field. Let's see if we can see him. Watch from the left side. We'll see if we pick up number 87. Actually can't do it. But CJ right here realizing, or at least in his mind, knowing nobody's open. And that's getting some tough yards for a little quarterback. Nice job by Charles Johnson.
Well, the longer Charles Johnson has played in this game, the better he's gotten. He's played in every game so far this year, but only a few plays here and there. He's getting a full workout today. That's Bieniemy on 1st and 10 he gains maybe 1 yard.
And ideally, Colorado in a situation where they'd like to take about 9 minutes off the clock, being as though there's 9:11 to play, and knock this thing in for a touchdown, get a good kickoff, and then force Missouri to work against the long field and the wind.
Under 9 minutes to go in Columbia, Missouri. The score is tied. The Big 8 opener for both Mizzou and CU. 2nd and 9 for the Buffs. Johnson, the pitch to the enemy. Up across the 45, brought down at the 46. Harry Colin on the stop.
Well, Colin did an excellent job of getting off the block by Simmons. And here's a case where Bieniemy realizes that somebody's going to come clean. And he says, now you're not going to get me, I'm going to get you. See, you can see Colin get off the block by Simmons, and Eric lowers his shoulder and gains a little bit of additional yards.
Third and 6 for the Buffs. 3rd and 6 from their own 43. Johnson to throw again. Wide open, Hemingway. Inside the 45-yard line. Another first down for the Buffs. Jermaine Wilkins there to make the stop.
I tell you what, this is a pretty good throw. Charles Johnson back in the pocket, and Hemingway's running a flat, but actually took it up the field, and more of a flag pattern, and CJ laid that thing on the button. Colorado now with 380 yards, and since 1985, when they went to the running attack, they have never lost a game that they've got a total offensive figure of more than 400 yards.
1st and 10 from the Mizzou 41. The pitch to the enemy. Excuse me. Chuck Snowden playing tailback now for the Buffs. Bieniemy getting a rest. Chuck Snowden, the freshman from Fairview High School. 6'1", 200 pounds. Well, I did his championship game when Fairview won.
He's a good-looking player.
He ran all over Cherry Creek that day.
Tough kid. The Buffs have utilized about 4 minutes of time so far in this drive.
Snowden gave Bieniemy a breather. Bieniemy back in the ball game now. 2nd and 7. Charles Johnson under center. That's James Hill, the young man from Widefield High School in Colorado Springs, gets a couple yards. Harry Colin brings him down again.
Same play. You try to keep the defense from running to the option play, running to the outside by sneaking that fullback through there from time to time. And that time James Hill really picks up some pretty good yardage, cutting back to the weak side. 3rd down again for the Buffaloes. They are 3 of 14 today in conversions.
It's 3rd and 3. Under 6.5 minutes in this ball game. 3rd and 3. Johnson dumps it off to Bieniemy, who fumbles the ball. Another pileup. We'll have to wait to see. But I saw a lot. Oh no, I was going to say I saw a lot of black jerseys there, but the one white jersey underneath the pile comes up with the ball.
I tell you, when good fortune smiles upon you, I guess you just say, thank you very much. That's a great job by Charles Johnson initially. Watch him avoid the rush here. Rickenbach comes in. Good throw by Johnson to Eric, and EB just loses the football. Now, how that thing popped up to somebody in a white jersey, I don't know we'll ever know. Did Pritchard get that? I guess he did. Mike Pritchard, in a maze of black, comes away with what looks to be the biggest play of the game.
And a 1st and 10 from the Mizzou 25-yard line. That's James Hill again. 6 feet, 210 pounds.
Well, I tell you, that reminiscent of the Stanford game, when a fumble on the last drive looked to be going right to a Cardinal, and somehow an offensive lineman got it. And, of course, Colorado went in for the winning touchdown.
A couple of things that stand out here, Dave. Number one, the Buffs are getting away from the wishbone on this drive. And number two, they're using a lot of their younger players.
And it's tough to run again that option with the field the way it is. And Charles Johnson so far has been terrific on this drive.
2nd and 8. The pitch to Bieniemy. Room on the right sideline. But a host of Missourians stack him up. Sharon Washington with a vicious hit. The enemy slow getting up. That's Washington, number 18 right there.
We talked about Washington earlier, the free safety. And what happens, you get a run of about 30 yards on a guy that really is not looking to you until the last second. And he got there a little bit earlier than Bieniemy had thought.
3rd and 8. Keep in mind the Buffs are well within Jim Harper's field goal range, especially with the wind at their back right now. Simmons in the ball game now for the Buffs. Rico Smith, the 3rd down specialist.
And Mike Pritchard's out of the game. I don't think timeout being called. I don't think they want Pritchard to the sideline.
Confusion on the field for the Buffs. Charles Johnson calls a timeout. Each team with 2 timeouts remaining.
I'll tell you, better to take a timeout there and get your right people in the game, because this is obviously a key down. 4 minutes and 22 seconds remaining, and Colorado took over the football with more than 11 minutes left in the game.
And as you pointed out, if and when Missouri does get the ball back, they'll be going against the wind for the rest of this quarter, which takes away what has proven to be the best part of their game, the long passing game.
Well, Colorado trying to decide a couple of things here. Number one, you don't want to lose any ground and make it a tougher field goal opportunity for Jim Harper. You don't want to take any chances, of course, of throwing an interception or making a bad decision. But you'd like to pick up that first down and keep this drive going.
Well, Oklahoma leads Oklahoma State 21-17 in the 3rd quarter. Dave, getting back to the strategy right here, 3rd and 8 for the Buffs. If you're Missouri, do you blitz and try and push them out of field goal range?
Well, I think it depends on what set they come out in, to tell you the truth. Colorado really on this drive has had a lot of success with Charles Johnson going back and kind of making things happen on his own. And Charles is an excellent thrower for an option quarterback. He's got a good arm, and he's made some good decisions on this drive.
He's just a very good all-around kid. A junior at CU, president of CU's Black Student Alliance. He is the guardian of his brother right now. His brother, a 17-year-old at Fairview High School. Charles' mother wanted the younger brother out of the inner city in Detroit, felt he would get a better education in Boulder, and right now he is at Fairview High School. Third and 8 for the Buffs from the Missouri 23-yard line. They're going to run it, and they get nowhere.
Well, they ran the counter to Simmons. I think with Bieniemy lined up in the I-back, trying to force Missouri to overreact to the weak side of the field and then counter back with Michael Simmons, and the Tigers would have none of it.
It's a play they hadn't run all day, hoping to catch Missouri asleep, but it didn't work. So Jim Harper is in the ball game to attempt a 39-yard field goal. This one will give the Buffs the lead by 3 points if he makes it. It's a line drive, and it is way... No, it's not. Excuse me. It is good. It is good. I should have waited for the officials right here, and the Buffs take the lead 27-24.
Yeah, the meeting with Nakamura went great. The way he was talking, it sounds like a done deal if we can deliver the plans by the 30th. Oh, we've got to give him a yes or no answer before he leaves town. Look, I got to go. He said he called from the airport. It's in the bag.
Don't miss those important calls. Call U.S. West for an extra line just for your special customers. U.S. West, making the most of your time.
A time to care message from United Airlines.
Opportunity doesn't always knock at the door.
Let's see who owns.
Sometimes it scratches. Don't miss those little opportunities to take the time to care.
This time to care message was brought to you by United Airlines, rededicated to giving you the service you deserve.
Taco Bell started again, oh my. $59.79.99. 3 new menus at a great new price. $59.79.99.
Check it out. All our favorites have great new prices, like our delicious soft taco supreme and our great tasting nacho supreme. So run for the border.
$59.79.99. Taco Bell started again. Run for the border.
Well, after the Jim Harper field goal that puts CU ahead, the Buffs kicked off into the end zone. Missouri chose not to run it back. The Tigers will start with the ball on their own 20-yard line. 3:41 left in this ball game. Kent Kiefer having a fine day throwing the ball at quarterback for Missouri, and he'll put it up again. On the sideline, complete to Damon Mays across the 30, and a first down.
Well, Colorado got everything they wanted there except an incompletion. Good pressure. They forced Kiefer to roll out. Marcellus Elder has a chance there to get Kiefer. It's a good throw and a good job of coming back to the football by Damon Mays, who looks like he may have injured an ankle a bit on that play.
Marcellus Elder starting for the Buffs for the first time today, taking the place of Leonard Renfro, who stayed home in Boulder with a bad knee. Kiefer on first down to throw again, over the middle again. This time it's Collins. And another first down for Missouri.
Collins from the flanker position runs a little slant down and then in. It gets right between the two inside linebackers, Beekert and Brown, and then of course Kiefer with enough escapability that he buys himself some time right there. See him hook up between the two linebackers. And that's a relatively easy throw and easy catch as Beekert slipped down a little bit. Actually, Beekert is down.
He is down, and the CU trainer's taking a look at him, helping him off the field. Missouri with its second consecutive first down pass. Beekert's had trouble with a shoulder the last couple ball games, and it looks like the same problem right there. First and 10 for Missouri on their own 46. Under 3 minutes to go in the game. Over the middle again, and wide open again is Lindsey Collins. They are picking on the Buffs inside linebackers all day.
Well, Colorado with the four-man rush, and right now Missouri is getting enough time to wait for those receivers to clear the zones, and they go from zone to zone, and then those receivers will hook up. And a good job by Kent Kiefer. He surveys the field and then finds Lindsey Collins on the crossing pattern. That's a lot of time to throw. When you play a zone defense and you give somebody that much time, he's going to find open receivers.
First and 10 from the Buffs 42. The shorty. Mays could turn it into a long one. He is in the end zone. Missouri takes the lead.
Well, this was a play that Missouri scored with last week against Arizona State. It's actually a screen pass. The wide receiver, Damon Mays, on the outside, will cut almost directly on the line of scrimmage inside. He picks up his offensive lineman. See him come back inside. The offensive linemen are already out there. And then Damon Mays with great speed and a nice cut right here on Dwayne Davis. And the Tigers have reclaimed the lead.
Jackie with the extra point attempt. It's a big one. Missouri goes up by 4. CU will have 2:32 left. A field goal won't do it. They need a touchdown.
And Damon Mays has enough speed that you try to get him the football any way you can. A little screen pass. He comes back inside from his wide receiver spot, and he's got a lot of people out in front of him. A play that Missouri has run the last couple of years, and again successfully last week against Arizona State. First time we've seen that play today, and boy, what a big one.
Well, if anything good comes out of this for the Buffs, they'll be going for that winning score with the wind at their back. The Missouri sideline whooping it up, getting the fans into it, and the fans respond.
The important thing here as Missouri kicks against the wind is to get a good return. Get out to the 40-yard line if you can and work with a short field. Obviously for an option team, that's very, very important. And you've got guys back there, especially Mike Pritchard, who are extremely capable.
Mike Pritchard and Dwayne Davis will be back to receive for the Buffs. Here's the last scoring drive for Missouri. Another quick strike. 4 plays, 80 yards, 1 minute, 9 seconds. Kent Keefer's got to have more than 250 yards throwing today so far, possibly close to 300.
I'd say he's over 300, probably.
Each team with 2 timeouts left. The kick taken by Davis. Check that. Pritchard looking for the sideline. Flags all over the field. Pritchard down at the 29.
Boy, that's what you didn't want. It's going to be illegal block. You got to think with as many flags, and Colorado's going to start about the 15-yard line, it looks.
This CU. Go ahead, Dave. Sorry.
No, the ball was kicked to the left side. It's a return to the right side. Tough to see from that angle as to who gets called for the illegal block, but there were enough flags. It was probably a multiple foul.
This is a bit of a shock to the system for the Buffs and their fans. Last year, they went through the Big 8 season, the Big 8 schedule undefeated. This year, the very first conference game, they're getting all they can handle from the Missouri Tigers. Missouri with a 31-27 lead, 2:24 left in the game, and the Buffs with their back to their own end zone. From the 12-yard line, Charles Johnson pitches to the enemy. Across the 20 to the 23. Let's go down to the sidelines and Mark McIntosh.
Thank you, Les. You know, last week when Missouri upset Arizona State 30-9, the fans tore down the goalpost. And there was only 34,000 fans here last week. This week, about 47,000. No telling what they'll do if Missouri pulls off this upset. I know this. We're getting out of here as soon as the ball game's over if Missouri comes out with a victory.
Maybe they should rip up the turf, Dave, the way everybody's been slipping on it. Johnson to throw. Oh, Pritchard falls down. Pritchard had found the seam in the defense, and if he kept his feet, he probably would have been there to take in the pass. But he slips.
He's going to be wide open. He ran a corner route and actually turned the defensive player, Maurice Benson, inside out. That would have been a first down about the 45-yard line, but he slipped down.
Instead, it'll be 2nd and 10 for CU. From their own 23. Johnson going deep. There's nobody there.
Well, Rico Smith got knocked out of bounds. So had he been able to come back inside, he still would not have been able to catch the football. Jermaine Wilkins, the cornerback, got a good chuck. And now 3rd and 10, everybody extremely loud. There's still time, and I realize it looks to be a desperate situation, but hope has not been lost, at least not entirely here.
When you say there's still time, are you saying if CU has to give up the ball, they will probably get it back?
No, I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying with right at 2 minutes or 1:59 remaining, you have 2 downs to pick up 10 yards, and then, of course, you take your shots from there.
This crowd now as loud as it's been all day.
Charles Johnson can throw the ball. If you give him time and get somebody open, CJ can hit the pass.
And they have been getting him time this afternoon. 3rd and 10 from their own 23. The play action. Over the middle. Complete to Rico Smith for the first down. At about the 44-yard line.
I'll tell you, that's a tough throw. He threw that ball before Rico Smith made his cut. And let's give credit to Rico Smith, who dropped a big one against Stanford. A 21-yard reception. The play action fake, and Smith comes from the left side to the right. That's a great throw over the heads of the linebackers. And a tough catch as he was really rocked just as he caught the football by Jermaine Wilkins. Rico Smith, a JC transfer, comes up with a big play for Colorado. We've got an injured Tiger. Bill McCartney said Rico Smith would be a big play guy for Colorado. Of course, those numbers attest to that.
I would say that Charles Johnson is the equal of Darian Hagan when it comes to throwing the ball. However, Hagan runs the wishbone a little better than Johnson.
I think CJ may have the edge in terms of throwing. You don't like to see Hagan at all down, but in this case, you might be better served having Charles Johnson in the game, as the injured player was the guy who hit Rico Smith, Jermaine Wilkins, as he walks off the field.
1st and 10 for the Buffs. on their own 45. 1 minute, 52 seconds left in this game. Missouri leads it 31-27.
Got
the
some
pitch
room.
to Bieniemy. Across midfield, he slips. How frustrating is this if you're a CU Buff?
Well, I'll tell you, that's 2 big plays in this drive. Bieniemy picks up an additional 10 to 15 yards right there if he keeps his footing.
Under 1:30 in the game. Bieniemy brought it down to the Missouri 48-yard line. And a timeout for the Buffs.
And I'll tell you, a smart play by Jay Leuenberg. Was it Joe Garton who just looked back and called? It was Leuenberg who called timeout as the offensive backfield tried to adjust while the clock was running.
Leuenberg, he's been around the block for a while, a junior, 6'3", 265 pounds. In fact, he is from this area. He is from Missouri.
You know, most head coaches, guys that don't wear the headset, want to get involved in the last 2 minutes of play when the game is very close. And it's frustrating, I think. You always take the head coach and what he has to say, the input he has, but it's frustrating from an offensive standpoint because you call the game the entire game, and sometimes you have a better feel for it. I mean, I've seen coaches, and Bill McCartney's the same way. Every coach is that way. The National Football League guys who take the headsets off in the last 2 minutes, they want to say, what are you going to call? I don't want to call that. Let's call this. And you have to sometimes defer to the head guy.
Tonight on Channel 4, Catch the Beat, Broncos Beat with Peter Ogott and Jim Ryan. They'll bring you up to date on all the latest Bronco news and give you an inside preview of Monday night's game with the Cleveland Browns. That's Broncos Beat tonight at 6:30 right here on Channel 4, your Broncos station. Right now, we're your Buff station, and we have a real humdinger going. Mizzou up 31-27.
You see, right now, you got to pick up the first down. It's 2nd and 3, but got to make sure you get that first down.
Johnson will throw. Good rush. Johnson escapes it. Room on the sideline. He picks up another first down and runs out of bounds close to the 30.
Well, I tell you, that's a great run by Charles Johnson, who looked like he was going to get sacked. There's Gerald Fletcher is a guy that comes from the left side of the screen, untouched. Now, he's not going to get blocked at all to the last second as Garton reels out and gets a piece of him. But Charles Johnson right here, looking like a kid that's played a lot more than he actually has.
46,000 people in the stands, and I don't think one of them is sitting. Everybody up on their feet in Columbia, Missouri.
I know we're standing.
1st and 10 for the Buffs at the Missouri 30-yard line. Johnson will throw.
Pritchard.
Open up the middle. Pritchard can't hold on to it. He was wide open, hitting the numbers, couldn't hold on.
Got to make that catch. And Pritchard's been the big play guy here this afternoon. That's a pass that you got to get down and cradle in your chest before you hit the ground. CJ steps up into the pocket. Excellent protection. That's a pass you just have to catch. And Mike Pritchard knows that better than anybody. You know, with a minute 10 left, less than 2nd and 10, it might not be a bad place for a screen or draw because you've got Missouri really coming hard in the pass rush. Some sort of running play.
2nd and 10 from the 30. There's the draw. Bieniemy has room. Run out at the 16. That's another first down for the Buffs. 1:03 to go.
The reason I said that, the outside linebackers have been coming almost every play, and they're upfield rushers. Sometimes if you can slip somebody past them, and you'll see it happen right here. Good job of picking up a stunt from the left side, and Bieniemy, because he's small and elusive, is able to break, contain, and now you're in a position where you can almost get back in your regular offense. You've got enough time. You've got one timeout. You're not forced into passing every down.
1st and 10 from the Missouri 15. The Buffs are down by 4 points. Johnson looking to throw again. Pressure again. Dumps it off to Bieniemy. Tries to cut back inside the 10-yard line. Gains about 6, and we have 50 seconds left in this game. Harper on the tackle for Missouri.
Clock is running.
We're under 40 seconds. 2nd and 4 for CU. And there's a timeout on the field.
Well, I tell you, they wasted some time there. Cost themselves about 10 seconds of valuable time. Because Charles Johnson didn't like what he saw, but been better served to call that timeout some time ago.
36 seconds to go.
Actually, let me correct something. Missouri called that timeout. as we just are notified right now. So
each team with 1 timeout left. And they're going to need it with 36 seconds to go. Well, it's a good game, and it should make for a good Bill McCartney show on Sunday night. Sunday night, 10:35, the Bill McCartney Show. Following our News 4 late edition right here on Channel 4, the home of the CU Buffs. And Dave Logan, who's standing beside me right now, will host that show along with Coach Mack. Well, you'll have plenty to talk about Sunday night,
well,
that's
I guess.
for sure.
Been some exciting times this year for Colorado football. And really, this has been a fairly well-played game by both teams. You've had some breakdowns defensively, but I think both have pretty good offensive teams. And with 38 seconds to go, Colorado now 2nd and 4. I'll really be surprised if you don't see some sort of option play with them running the football to pick up that 1st down and just kind of power this thing into the end zone. If you're Bob Stoll, you got to be thinking like that. I don't think you're going to feel like Colorado throws the football on 2nd and 4.
Remember, a field goal will not help the Buffs. They're down by 4. The Missouri fans on their feet trying to drown out the offensive call by Charles Johnson, the CU quarterback. 2nd and 4. Fakes the pitch. The toss to number 81, John Bowman. He picks up the 1st down. He would have had a touchdown if he kept on his feet. Instead, the ball is placed at the Missouri 3.5-yard line.
Now you got to compose yourself. You've got 1st and goal. You've got 31 seconds, and you've got 1 timeout left. So there's no need to rush things here. Make sure you got guys lined up and not jumping.
They're in a 1-back offense. Charles Johnson slams the ball to the ground to stop the clock so he can walk to the sideline and talk strategy with the coaching staff.
I don't think he's got time to do that unless they call a timeout. But what a call on 2nd and 4. They've utilized this once before, the fake toss. They come back, the tight end blocks, and then he releases, and he's wide open. Bowman, if he keeps his footing right there, scores easily. The game pretty much is over, and Colorado has just had a devil of a time trying to stand up today. Missouri slipped some, too.
This turf is an embarrassment. In fact, if we were voting on a most valuable player award, I would give it to that stuff.
For the first time ever.
2nd down. Excuse me, 1st down, goal to go for the Buffs. 28 seconds left. Bieniemy trying to punch it in, stopped at the 1.
Got to get your timeout.
Buffs have 1 timeout left. Coach Logan calling for it.
But they let 6 seconds. I mean, not to be critical, but 6 seconds. That's about 1/3 of the time left on the clock now with 18. So you're in a situation now with 18 seconds to go. If you get stopped short here, you're going to have a tough time getting everybody lined back up to run another down. And I think the chains are wrong in the field. I think now it's 2nd down. They had 2nd before. I believe it's 2nd and goal now.
I was a little confused by that also. I thought
that they threw the pass down to stop the clock. That's right. You're right. So now they're 3rd down. That won't matter. You won't have enough time to run 3 plays. You've got time for 2 plays here. And I'm sure that's what Bill McCartney and offensive staff telling these guys now. Hey, if we don't score on this play, we've got no timeouts, fellas. So you got to get up. You got to get back on the line of scrimmage. Here's what the 2nd play will be.
If CU does score and then kicks off to Missouri, Missouri will have a long way to go against the wind and with very little time on the clock. But first things first, the Buffs have to get it into the end zone.
Yeah, I would say Colorado probably likes their chances very much if they score here. Not much time left for anything.
Strategy session on the sideline, a meeting of the minds.
This has been a drive with the 2nd team quarterback, and I'm not sure in a situation like this where how many 2nd team quarterbacks could actually take their team down the field. And it wasn't like he was pitching the ball all the time. He made big plays on this drive.
He did a good job last week when Hagan came out with the sprained shoulder, marching him downfield against Washington late in the game. 2nd down, 1 yard. Bieniemy stacked up. I don't think he's in.
Got to hurry.
The clock at 10 seconds right now.
Got to hurry.
The Buffs have no timeouts left.
They stopped the clock to unpile everybody. 8 seconds to go. You might want to throw it in the ground here. 6, 5, 4.
That's what Johnson does. Stops the clock with 2 seconds left. It will be 4th down, 1 yard to go for the Buffs to score the winning touchdown. What a way to end this one. This is it. You either win it or you don't, right here on this play.
Well, Bieniemy tries to go up and over here, and he is met at the pinnacle of his jump. Right at the top, he's met by a couple of Missouri players. Tough to see as to the number, but here's the game right here.
3 running backs behind Johnson. Johnson himself, is he in? Yes! The Buffs win the ball game.
Look out, they're all over the field.
The fans are streaming onto the field as if Missouri won.
Oh my goodness.
And yet on the other sideline, the CU Buff team is running onto the field as if they won.
There were guys trying to tear the goalpost down that now have to stop.
Well, they're still trying to tear the goalpost down.
Holy mackerel. Can we see it? If we can see it again, if he gets in by just a couple of inches, a gutty call by CJ, the option. He sees the seam, he ducks it up inside the right tackle. I'll tell you what, this is for the highlight reel. The goalposts are going down, but I'm not sure they realize Missouri lost the game.
CU wins the game, 33-31. I've never seen goalposts being torn down when the home team lost.
Let's take another look at it. The option play to the right, Charles Johnson fakes to the fullback, makes the decision right there to duck up inside. He is met at the goal line, but from there it looked like he clearly was in. Another angle, we'll take a look at it. CJ, not much of a fake to Hemingway. Woo!
It looked like the intention was for CJ to run it in himself all along.
He got the ball over, but not by much. I tell you, it's been a terrific game. Charles Johnson, the last play. Do you see the ball? You got everybody in white signaling touchdown and everybody in black waving their arms saying no.
Well, to paraphrase the commercial, it doesn't get any closer than this. The last play of the game, the CU Buffs win their Big 8 conference opener against the Missouri Tigers in Columbia, Missouri, when the backup quarterback, Charles Johnson, takes the ball in with 2 seconds left to give the Buffs a 33-31 win. Once again, the final score, CU 33, Missouri 31. The executive producer of today's game is Tom Edwards. Produced by Terry Travato. For Dave Logan and Mark McIntosh, this is Les Shapiro saying good afternoon from Columbia, Missouri. This has been a presentation of Channel 4 Sports, the home of the CU Buffs.